really did all the damage is Jason Botterill, and Kevin Adams has had some trouble, obviously, and has not done the best job cleaning it up. But the guy that really did it all was Botterill.
Yep, that's right. And the guy that brought them all in, right, like,
is not a guy in the league anymore.
No, he doesn't. He has not worked in the league since, and I can't imagine he ever would again. But Murray built a core group of players that were going to win Stanley Cups if you had just put the right pieces around them. But he thought that Rasmus Ristolainen, Zach Bogosian, and Josh Georges were the pieces on the blue line to do that with. Right? Those are the guys.
Yeah.
Those are the guys that played 20-plus minutes a night, and your goalies got hurt, and you made poor decisions with coach. So I think Botterill did it worse, but, these guys are surrounded by really good teams that allow them to be stars. That goal, Reinhardt scores that first goal. I don't think he needed a teammate for that one. He could have gone.
That was pretty nice.
That was just himself stealing the puck, going around guys. Like, that's just a great individual effort. But, he's on a team that allows him to get to this moment. And the Sabres just didn't even come close. I tweeted this out last night. The 2016-17 Buffalo Sabres finished with 78 points, and they've combined 11 Stanley Cup rings since they left.
It's a lot.
11.
How many of those
double counting. Some
Florida?
of those are Rodriguez, and last night I'm giving them 3 because Reinhardt, Rodriguez, and Kulikov are all on that team.
But Kulikov is maybe a stretch. Montour's on the team last year, not this year, right?
Right. Yeah, he's not on this year, but.
Well, anyway, like I said, what's to be said that hasn't been said? It feels like in the moment of a game like last night, Reinhardt scored a beautiful goal, one off his foot, and 2 empty netters. So there are 4-goal performances, and then there are 4-goal performances. But what's to be said? Because if you went to bed and, you don't really care, that's fine. If you watched, maybe you're someone that likes to do this where the game ends or Reinhardt scores his 4th, and you're like, man, I'm going to see who makes the absolute most devastating comment on Twitter about this. Who's going to win Twitter? Mm-hmm. That's what a moment like last night is. Which Sabres tweeter, content creator, who's going to win Twitter tonight? And there are a couple that I enjoyed. There's rehashing the Reinhardt trade, and did they get enough? Because they got a first and a prospect. Mm-hmm. That's Yuri Kulik and Devin Levi. There's Eichel and Reinhardt on the bike. There's, I don't know. Like, who, I don't know, maybe we should award this. Who won last night? Who won Twitter last night as a Sabres content creator that sees the moment? I used to definitely be someone that did this all the time. What's to be said that's not been said about this situation, about where they are? About where they are and, more importantly, where they were. Well, right, because
this is more of like a hypothetical, like a what-if game that it's probably not that realistic. But last night I was thinking a lot about, in the past it's been more like what I just kind of went through, like how those teams were so bad, what was around them, whatever. Yesterday was more for me, man, can you imagine what if they had somehow been able to hold it together for just a couple more years? What if they were able to keep those guys together for a couple more years and everything else is the same?
Would they have kind of grown up 1 year, 2 years later?
Yeah, because they're in their supporting cast, did it not show up right after they left? The supporting cast, Eichel and Reinhardt specifically, the supporting cast that they needed around them to win, 2 years later, it was almost in the playoffs without them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have Tuck if you do that, right? But isn't that the only key piece you don't have if you're not making these trades?
Tage, Dahlin, Oposo.
Right, like Dahlin grows into his own and wondering, this is kind of a wondering what they would have been if Granato was the coach. And maybe they're doing the same style. And, okay, Cousins has a big year, and Tage moves to center, but he's playing second-line center, so he's still a producer. And kind of they all do grow into it under Granato, but the difference is I've got Eichel and Reinhardt still at the top. I was thinking a lot about that last night because I'm thinking like that's a team that you could still be looking at as a perennial playoff team. If you would have got in that first time probably, if everything else is the same and you have those two at the top.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, probably unrealistic. They had already screwed it up because Reinhardt was on a bridge deal. You couldn't keep it together.
Yep.
So you could have played nice maybe with Eichel and in a different circumstance. Maybe you could have played hardball, but just it doesn't seem tenable. But that was my thought last night that I don't think I've heard said. Like, what would it have looked like if they somehow kept it together a little bit longer?
What am I thinking watching last night? I'm thinking about Reinhardt as a 5-time 20-goal scorer going for a first-rounder and a prospect. And that was in part because there's uncertainty about whether or not he would sign wherever you traded him. Right? The offers, let's be real, the offers, there might have been 5 teams making an offer because they thought, we'll re-sign that guy. And other teams would have said, we're not sure if we can. Florida takes the risk. Florida makes the deal. Florida re-signs him. So
remember, he played out that final year of his contract, too, I think.
Yeah.
And then he ended up re-signing.
Did he re-sign during the season?
Good question. I'm not sure about that part of it. Let me look.
I feel like
might have been after.
I was going to say he did not get to unrestricted free agency, though.
No, he didn't get to UFA status. I know that, but it might have been in the summer that they ended up signing him.
Yeah. He has just signed.
No, it was July 1st.
The very first year. It's not the year that he got traded there.
No, he had.
July 1st of what year he signed?
I'm sorry. I was looking at a different extension. So he's traded there in 2021.
Yep.
And then on August 11th, so before he's played a game for them, he signed a 3-year, $19 million a year deal. I mean, the Panthers kind of did the same thing, didn't they? Like, they didn't sign him to an 8-year deal when he showed up there. They signed him to a 3-year deal.
He took 3.
But that were so good. And he turned into such a good player that I think it was probably pretty easy to sign the extension after.
And 3 was a longer contract than the Sabres ever gave him, other than his entry-level deal. It was 2s and 1s, right? 2s and 1s.
It was never a 3 for the Sabres?
No, I don't think so. I mean, again, he's brutal. He signs with the Panthers for 3 years, plays that out, and then last year signed an 8-year contract. So, like, he's not going anywhere. But that might be one of the reasons if you look back at the trade and think, wow, you got a first-round pick and a prospect, and the prospect was Levi, the 7th-round goaltender who still is not your full-time goalie, and we don't know when he will be or if that happens this year. And then the other guy's Yuri Kulik, who looks like a nice player, and this year is, but it kind of drives home when I was looking at that trade that you should, of course, always be trading first-round picks for real players. Every team in the league should be trading first-round picks for real players, especially if you're good, and it's the 22nd or the 25th pick. Every time. You should trade that for a real player. And the Panthers, they did well in that deal. The point I was starting to make there is how many teams are in on Reinhardt? Was it 10? Was it 6 because of that? Can we sign him? And Florida might have been willing to take the risk and then also say, like, what'd you think about 3 years, 19? And says, you know what? Sure, I like it. Why not? I like what we're doing. I also saw yesterday, again, who's winning Twitter? The Sabres interviewed Bill Zito.
Yes.
They interviewed him before
Botterill.
Yeah, because he worked under Jarmo Kekalainen.
Yep.
And I saw the tweet from Pierre LeBrun. It's 2017. Hey, the Sabres have just interviewed Bill Zito. So you could say everything you want about really anything that went wrong. I might just go down to, what if they hired Bill Zito instead of Jason Botterill? I don't know that they're a Stanley Cup champion, but one guy has shown a good way to destroy a franchise, and the other has built one into a back-to-back Stanley Cup champion. Now, he's got some things working for him. You want to talk about, salary, tax, income tax.
Yeah.
You want to talk about palm trees. You can do all that. But the Sabres made a hire at GM, and it was Botterill instead of Zito.
Yeah, but as we pointed out, he's not bringing in talent by spending $10 million in free agency. He's getting Forsling for nothing and Rodriguez for nothing, and he's getting Reinhardt for a late first-round pick and a prospect.
Which is basically what a
making
GM
a big
is.
swing for Kachchuck.
That's when you know a GM is good.
Yeah.
When you're doing that. And he knows what he's doing. So, what's...
That could be...
I keep saying what's to be said as we add a few more things here and there, but what's to be said? Are we supposed to, punish ourselves all day today? Maybe.
You're supposed to be mad at them, right? Like,
who is it?
The Sabres.
For how long? How long am I? How long do I have?
You're
to
supposed
stay
to
mad?
be mad at them until they finally turn it around.
Well,
I think they honestly they've earned that. They've earned the fans being angry until it's over.
Yeah, that's probably right. But
And maybe that's not healthy, and that's not a good environment. The players certainly, I mean, does Paterka still hold a grudge or somebody else on the team from being booed down 9-1 to Columbus 2 years ago, which still blows my mind. But it seemed to have happened, right? Tuck talked about it. So not healthy maybe, but it's what they have earned, I think, is you've done something no one else has ever done in a market that cared about the sport a lot. And it's dwindling and dwindling and dwindling every year. Maybe last night is a moment to show, though, that there is still a lot of people that care, that have emotion, that have pent-up anguish because, hell, that guy, a lot of people like that guy. I put a poll up last week. Do you like Sam Reinhardt? Just to compare it to how many people would say about Eichel, it was like 95% say they like Reinhardt. So, player that everybody likes, that was really good, and he's doing legendary things on another team and winning back-to-back cups.
Yep.
Like, that should make you angry. That it's not happening here. Even, something half as good happening here. I don't even scoring 4 in a cup-clinching game, but he has done it 2 years in a row, by the way, now. I mean, it was the game-winning goal last year, and that I don't think he ended up with the game-winning goal last night because the Oilers scored with like a minute left.
Yeah. Which is proof that, like, clinching goal is kind of dumb.
Yeah.
I have the clinching goal. We're up, 5-0.
Right.
Oh, wait.
The Oilers scored. Now it's Kachchuck's.
Now it's not mine anymore. I did not have the game-winning goal. That is kind of a goofy thing. I mean, I get how it
that's
works.
right.
Anyway, 8030550. Good morning, everyone. The Panthers win. Back-to-back champs for them. The question to kind of ask there is whether or not the primary thing you feel is anger or indifference.
Mm-hmm. Because it's one of the two. I think it's one of the two for everybody.
Which is what you asked yesterday early in the show, is like, when did you check out? And I don't feel either of those things. I don't feel, of course there's plenty of, anger about how things have gone. I definitely don't feel indifference. I just feel like a level of acceptance about, and that's really it. To me, it's accepting how bad things were, and I don't know when things will get better, but I do know that today is the first day towards them getting better. And someday they'll be good again. In theory.
I was going to say.
Someday they'll be good again.
There are some days where I wonder if that's even true. Or if they'll move before they're good.
There's Florida good, and then there's just, like Ottawa good. Mm-hmm. They can be Ottawa good, and it would be our favorite season in 14 years. Probably. So they'll be good again, and someday when they're good again, it'll start today, the day after the Cup final. The draft is in 9 days.
Every time you say it,
the draft is in 9 days. Imagine the NFL rolls out the draft 9 days after the Super Bowl.
The NHL really doesn't. They don't really get the NFL strategy of like, let's spread things out a little bit.
In large part because no one cares.
Yeah, I was going to say, they know that no one cares about the draft,
You know about like the top 6 players in a good year.
Yeah.
And after that, it's just like, sure, whatever. Show me the jerseys of the Moncton Wildcats and call it a day.
I'm just saying, like, you're in your 3 of 32 markets that might maybe actually care about the thing.
Yeah.
Let's throw it in the middle of July. When nothing's happening.
I find myself admiring people that can get to, I did a mock draft, and here's the Sabres. Here's who they took ninth.
Was it Corey Pronman, I think, for The Athletic? I think it was him. Did a 7-round NHL mock draft.
Fake.
Like, sir, you are
it's gotta be fake.
A hero.
I do some prospect work.
7-round mock draft.
And those, I can't even imagine those. You got to scout
it's crazy.
300 players to do that.
We all got drafted in Corey Pronman's 7-round. All of us. All 4 of us are going. Congratulations. Josh, Nashville. You got to be excited about that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. 7-round mock. Well, the draft is in 9 days.
But what that is more for me is like we're going to get the team looking different in 9 days. Yeah. Right? Like there are trades to be made, and there are guys that maybe you trade away, and the talk that Adams wants to do something big. I'm allowing myself to be optimistic that they're going to do something that I'm going to care about. There we go. Well, I don't even know that I'll like it. I just know that I just feel like, I'm willing to believe right now they're going to do something that I legitimately care about. Something that outranks, what was their biggest move last year? The McLeod trade?
Yep.
I think whatever they do this year, I think will outrank the Ryan McLeod trade.
Well, are J.J. Peterka and Bo Byram better potential trade pieces than Matthew Savoy?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, I think. Yeah, the answer is yes. So,
and you have a GM that maybe, I don't know, is desperate the wrong word for it?
No, he should be desperate.
He should be desperate.
He should be desperate.
Don't you kind of feel like he maybe is acting more desperate? Like he was not doing that for a while, but I don't know if you call trading Cousins desperation. It's more willingness to part with pieces that, maybe people think you're in love with, and that you can't part with. I love Dylan Cousins. Can't part with him. They did that. So what would that be? Would that be Benson? Would that be? I mean, we talked about Peterka.
The Cousins trade's a good one because wasn't the Cousins trade just some version of they didn't trade him at his peak. They didn't trade him when things were going well. They traded Cousins as this seems to get worse by the day. The guy is in a bad spot. We got to do something for him, for us. Mm-hmm. It's not working. It was another one of these breakups. Mm-hmm. They don't think about Florida. Florida always gets so much credit for trading Huberdeau for Kachchuck.
Yeah,
Huberdeau was not. Oh wow, this is falling apart. We need to find a way to do something different because
he had 110 points the year before.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
it's wow, holy cow. You know what? We've got a deal we think makes us better. We're going to be aggressive. Let's go do it. Trade 110-point player and win the trade versus the Sabres, who what did Dylan Cousins do last year?
Nothing.
And again, without trying to, I'm not taking a shot at him. He looked like the saddest hockey player on earth. And it's just this can't get worse. He did well under Granato, started to go south. Hey, Lindy's going to be the guy that resurrects his game. Just nope. Okay, let's call it. That's a guy they extended for 7 years.
Yeah.
And how early into the extension did they call it when it's bad? So
right.
The whole thing is, to me, whatever. Not to say you don't deserve credit for that, but you asked if that's a desperation trade. It might be a throw your hands up, try something different trade. And who'd they get in return? They got Josh Norris, who we haven't seen.
Here's your daily reminder that Josh Norris is on the Buffalo Sabres.
Your daily reminder that the highest paid forward on the Sabres.
Right. And he's penciled in as their number one center right now. People forget he's on the team.
Not for nothing, that should be viewed as you want the team to look different next year. It already will.
Right, they're going to have. He's going to be their number one center.
That guy's on the team.
Yeah,
and if they make a big swing for Elias Pettersson still, which I guess could happen, or I can't even we'll start
Robertson.
To get sure Jason. What do they just trade for Jason Robertson and they have all of a sudden Josh Norris and Jason Robertson, and you're looking at those two in your top six, and
Byram's traded away for something.
Samuelson's bought out. The path is not an impossible path to walk. In fact, teams walk it all the time. So, again, without being overly optimistic, one thing I think about today is today's the first day to try and get it right, and eventually they will. Someone will. Maybe it won't be Kevin Adams, but eventually they'll be good again. It's almost impossible to be this bad this long.
That's where we ended up with the Bills eventually, wasn't it?
17 years.
Not even well, I like this and I like this. It's eventually they have to be good, right? That was maybe halfway through the thing. But it's eventually they have to be good.
Yeah.
It did happen.
Brad and Lackawanna quickly before the break. Hey, Brad, what's up?
Hey, guys. I just wanted to call and give you guys some credit because I know sometimes you guys don't always get a lot of credit for your calls, during the whole long stretch of a season or off season. And I just thought that when we had Reinhardt, Kachchuck was available for trade, Bobrovsky was available for trade, maybe you guys were on the fence about Marchand, but you guys were we should add this guy, we should add this guy, we should add this guy. And half of the Florida team is literally what you would have called as a GM over the process of them winning the Cup. I just think it's kind of funny, and I thought you guys should get some credit for building the Florida team.
Thanks.
In a weird way.
Thanks, Brad.
Yeah. The Sabres, Kachchuck was on the table, as you mentioned. Kevin Weeks tweeted during all of that the Flames had Kachchuck, a former first, and 2 prospects in the Eichel sweepstakes. But I think it came out very quickly after that, Kachuk's not going to Buffalo.
Sure.
So I don't think you were ever getting Kachchuck because maybe they were talking about getting Kachchuck, and Matthew Kachchuck is I'm not going there. He did the same thing to Calgary. He was very specific, I think, and there are only a couple teams I want to go to, and Florida was one of them. So, I would have loved it in theory, but I don't think you were ever landing him in the spot the Sabres were in.
803-0550. When we get back, I'll have a stat for you on the Panthers, their roster build. And one thing about the Panthers roster build that's very, very different from the Sabres, and it's not about the top, it's about the bottom. And I think what you'll find would surprise you. So we'll get to that on the other side. Jeremy and Joe, happy Wednesday. It's the earliest sunrise of the year today. And we started talking about that before the show, and my brain started to hurt. So we might try to explain that and pass it on. But yes, the earliest sunrise of the year today, 5:36. So good morning. Come hang with us. It's a beautiful Wednesday. It's going to get hot this week on WGR.
Florida tonight, they're looking to win the Stanley Cup for the second year in a row. When are we allowed to call them a dynasty if they win? Are we allowed to call that? Is there any way we're hypothetical we're allowed to call them a dynasty after this season?
I think I have a hot take on this. I think they are.
Yeah?
I think it's so hard.
Are you saying, though, assuming they win? Or you're saying already?
I'm going to go with it doesn't matter if they win.
Wow.
I think that making 3 straight Stanley Cup finals, winning one, going up against McDavid, and then going through the teams they went through in Tampa, who were the last dynasty we saw, right?
Yeah.
I would argue that this is a dynasty. This team, the way that they're put together, the reputation that they hold in the league, like the way other teams and markets talk about them, I think has a place to hold here. And the way that they just continue to dominate everybody they play, I think that this team should be considered that. That's how I feel about it.
I do think it is a hot take, just in that I think you can't just win one.
I know.
To be considered a dynasty. Like, I know what you're saying, because what was the name of the Bills 30 for 30? Almost a dynasty?
Right.
I feel like that's kind of how I would feel about Florida a little bit. But 1 versus 0, I get it.
If the Bills had won one of those,
if they had won one and gone to the other 3,
right.
I don't think you could have called it a dynasty.
That's tough. I think it's
I wouldn't have. I mean, I wouldn't have personally.
I think now, especially in the league that is as watered down as it is due to expansion, and with how many teams there are due to expansion, I think being able to dominate and consistently get to where that team has gotten to over these last 3 years is worthy of that label.
Because this is my opinion. I have not heard this from any player, anybody else. I just have this feeling, if this happens again, one more year, I think they're all gone. I think Dahlin will want to go. I don't think Dahlin can take one more year of this. It just seemed like he was at his fill last year, but he has told us that he wants to fix this with the Sabres. He wants to stay. I believe him. But if this happens another year, I just think that's it. I think they'll be lining up to get out of here.
Paul Hamilton.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, Paul Hamilton. Everyone's got a breaking point, and you would think. Thanks, Paul.
Take care, guys.
Paul's appearance brought to you by Raylax, Honda Raylax. We got this NHL draft in 11 days. Free agency once we get to July. So the offseason approaches, and you want to say like it's a big one, of course.
I mean, the way Paul just set it up, it is like the biggest one.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Florida Panthers have won the Stanley Cup for the second consecutive season, and once again, it is Sam Reinhardt leading the way for them in the cup-clinching game. Last year was the game-winning goal. This year, 4 goals by Reinhardt, including a beautiful goal early in the first period to start it off. He did have 2 empty netters a little bit later on, but 4 goals for Reinhardt. He had a goal in 4 consecutive games to end the series. Sam Bennett, who led the entire playoffs in goals, wins the Conn Smythe. He is scheduled to be a free agent, by the way, in a couple of weeks. We are 9 days away from the NHL draft. The NBA Finals are off today. They are back in action tomorrow night. Thunder and Pacers. Oklahoma City leading 3-2 can win the title tomorrow night. In the NFL, Sean McVay says that the Rams and running back Kyron Williams have made progress on a contract extension, and it appears that will get done before training camp. Looks more likely that he'll get a contract at this point than James Cook would. 11-day power play community shift starts today at Harbor Center. First 3-hour shift starts in a couple of hours at 9 a.m., but the opening ceremony is tonight at 6 o'clock. If you want to check them out at Harbor Center, and you can still donate. Easiest way to do that, go to 11daypowerplay.com. You can hit the donate button, then you can type in our team, WGR 550, in the little search bar. Those are your Paddock Chevrolet sports headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership.
Do you think the average fan has any idea what you went through, and what did you go through?
I tore my adductor off the bone, and then had some hernia thing, and all on the same side, and wanted to throw in the towel a bunch of times. I got to thank a lot of people, for getting me healthy enough. I'm sure I wasn't the easiest to deal with. My fiance did a great job at the house on days where I probably wasn't in the best mood coming to the rink. The trainers, maybe when I wasn't in the best mood, when I was in pain. I just owe them so much.
Matthew Kachchuck. You know how it works. Team ends in the playoffs. We find out they were all actually reanimated zombies with limbs that didn't work and adductors off the bone. There you go. That's Matthew Kachchuck. Chairman Joe, good morning.
He also, there were 2 things interesting I saw yesterday from him. One was he got Evander Kane to act like the biggest sore loser of all time, who got kicked out of the game. And also Kachuk said, I guess, that he thought Tampa was the toughest team they played all playoffs.
First round?
In the first round. So, there you go. There you go, Gary Bettman. There's your playoff format.
Well, Toronto took him to 7 games.
Yeah. Maybe he's taking a shot at everybody, I guess, then by saying that, but
maybe. 803-0550. Couple stats for you. I mentioned roster build. I want to get to. I've got 2 stats of the day. We'll double up. Why not? One is that Florida led in this series for more than any other team had led in a series. The numbers on that. Florida, by the way, and it all happened in first periods. The goal differential in the first period in this series.
Oh, yeah.
Huge. Florida scored 14 to Edmonton's 3 in the first period. Games after 20 minutes. 2-1 Florida, 3-2 Edmonton, and then 2-0, 3-0, 2-0, 2-0 Florida. So that's part of it. Then Chris Johnston had it. The Panthers spent more time leading during this Cup final than any team in history. They were leading for 255 minutes and 49 seconds. But then the roster building stat I wanted to get to, this was from Kevin Papetti, who is an NHL writer and analyst for The Athletic and covers the Leafs, because the Leafs might be a little sensitive to this as well. That Florida's fourth line and third pair, what they pay their fourth line and their third pair, is about $4.3 million total. The Sabres pay that same group of jobs about $9 million.
Double.
So
More than double.
More than double, about 9. And the stat for you on a real quick, rough math on that is, so Florida gets $5 million surplus there, kind of, on their fourth line, and they spend $20 million more on the cap.
Yeah.
So the Panthers are spending $25 million more on their top 6, their top 4, and in goal than the Sabres are. $25 million in 1 year. So,
brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, just...
And that's not even, tax adjusted. That's Florida's just playing with a stacked deck, different deck, and they don't spend too much on the bottom of the roster.
No.
They don't obsess on the bottom of the roster. It's your young guys, your prospects. You get guys in here that can play that role, and you should be good to go. And the Sabres last year, that was the offseason was finding those guys.
Yeah, I was going to say, for the Sabres, it's both. It's a combination of they wanted to spend that on the fourth line forwards, right? They wanted to spend that. They didn't want to spend that maybe on the defenseman, but that's what happens when you miss on a couple of contracts, and then the guys end up getting buried on the depth chart. You missed on Samuelson, and you missed on Clifton. So there's $7 million of third-pair defensemen that were they hoping when they signed them 2 years ago that was going to be their Dahlin and Power partners?
Yeah.
And Florida doesn't really have misses like that. When they pay guys, they end up usually performing pretty well.
Jeff in Welland is up. Hey, Jeff, good morning.
Hey, how are you guys?
Good.
Good. No, I just wanted to run somebody. I heard you guys talking earlier about, are you down because, Reinhardt, we could still have Reinhardt here and Eichel here and, building off this. But you know what? I actually look at it we got Peterka here. We got Thompson. We got Tuck. We got Power. We got Dahlin. We got Benson. Quinn's there. McLeod. Realistically, we got a decent core, but what we don't have, the Florida has, is we don't have a Bobrovsky. We don't have a goaltender that, all of our forwards and defense can sit there and have faith in behind them. You know what I mean?
Yep.
If we had that goaltender, obviously Reimer's not, he's getting up there, but look at what the team was doing at the end of the season last year, right? They had a veteran goalie sitting in net. He was playing decent for us, and we did well. We need somebody that our players can have faith in the net. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Jeff, it's happened a couple times, even where these last 3, 4, 5 years, the guy that's not supposed to be the starter has outplayed the guy that they had be the starter. I feel like that might be one of the most consistent things that has happened.
I was going to say.
Think about it. Reimer, Craig Anderson, UPL. He was the third option. He became the guy.
Levi
shows up. Whenever they make a plan for the goalie, it seems like the other guy, one of the other guys, ends up being the hot horse that they ride.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. It just seems like we need a veteran back there. We need somebody because we have so much youth on that team that they need somebody like a veteran that they can depend on. You know what I mean? Or have faith in.
Or just give them stability, consistency. There are multiple years. I mean, the year that the Panthers win the Cup, when they lose to Vegas, when they make it as
an 8 seed.
The 8 seed.
Yeah, they were 1 point
ahead of the Sabres.
1 point.
And the Sabres, if they had a goalie, they would have been in the playoffs.
Yep.
I think, Jeff, if I can just kind of guess a word or use my own on your point here, stability, consistency. Mm-hmm. They've kind of been chasing this position since Ullmark left. Ullmark was good, and Ullmark left, and after that, it's UPL and Levi gets in the mix. And who else? Who am I missing?
They signed Eric Comrie to be their starting goalie, didn't
for
they?
$1.9 million for 2 years to
But
try him out.
He was like the 1A, 1B at least.
Right. There were some advanced numbers that he's got a small sample size, take this risk.
Yeah.
It was a good calculated risk, did not work. There's Carter Hutton for a couple of years off of a hot year in St. Louis, and by the time he's here, he needs vision surgery. It's the most accomplished goalie they've ever signed after Hasek. Maybe this is not right. Is it Ben Bishop on LTIR? They get Ben Bishop's rights. There's Leonard as a first-round pick.
Anderson was accomplished, but he was old,
right?
40,
and
right?
He played well for them. So
yeah,
I wonder if Kekalainen, he had Bobrovsky before Bobrovsky became Thanos out there in the net, but
yeah.
It is definitely something that, had they had that, if they have Hellebuck, they've made the playoffs.
Sure.
Again, you can't just go ahead and have that guy.
Yep.
But it's definitely a point worth making. And last year, what's last year? Last year is, hey, Luukkonen did it. Here's 5 years, $5 million. And then it was just gone.
Mm-hmm.
So they can't seem to get anybody in net to really just lock it down at a league average level, which is kind of what Luukkonen did when he got that deal. That's when he got $5 million. In 5 years, when that contract was signed, didn't it feel like oh, all right, okay, that's some term, that's some money.
It was another one of the, hey, 1 year's all we need to see.
Let's get a bargain.
You're in. Yeah. Let's get them locked down.
Let's bet and get a bargain.
Yep.
How many of those bargain deals look like bargains right now? Tage
does, and is that it? Cause the other ones they signed early that haven't really worked: Cousins, Samuelson, Luukkonen.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it? They signed Power pretty early.
Yep.
That one probably ends up looking pretty good.
It's fine just because, what do you make? He makes like 8 something. That's probably fine.
That one I bet you'll look back and go, okay, that was a good one. They're two for 5
sure.
If I'm being generous, though.
I think it's definitely not bad. Andrew in Amherst. Hey, Andrew, what's up?
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm one of the individuals who cares more about the Sabres than the Bills, so I've been living this life for the past 14 years. But this is the best time of the season. Renewed optimism. Front office is saying everything you want to say, and we have this naive hope that something's going to happen, and we're going to look forward to a new season. But just looking at roster construction, obviously want top 6 help, but just looking at Josh Norris, I mean, the guy hasn't played more than 66 games in a season and is averaging 53. My concern is we start off, everything's perfect, we start strong, he gets hurt, our center depth is now Ryan McLeod and Yuri Kulik. And I'm just looking are we going to end up with more inaction mid-season, right? So no matter what he does, I'm looking forward to hopefully some moves happening, getting Owen Power a D partner, maybe another goalie, getting rid of the $7.5 million in cap between Clifton and Sammy on our third pair. But, does something happen midseason if Norris can't continue? I guess that's my biggest concern is because to this point he hasn't been able to. So
yeah, thanks, Andrew. Midseason, that's where also, the talk conversation happens. The talk conversation,
right.
we got into this the last couple days. They don't have to move anything on talk. There's no reason to really even think about it being a worst-case scenario. I don't think they'll trade him. He'll play. And then we get to midseason, we have that conversation. For Norris, man, if Norris doesn't pan out, I mean, I don't know. Are we going to sit around and look at what Cousins does in Ottawa? He's in the division.
I'm not going to worry about it because of how poorly it was going here at the end. Did anybody see signs that it was turning around for him here?
No.
So if it turns around for him in Ottawa, I feel great. I don't know that was going to happen here. It's different than last night, Reinhardt scoring for Florida. Reinhardt was good when he was here. That was not Cousins for me. So the injury part, hey, that's why you got him, right? If he gets hurt, you just move Tage back to center, I think is probably what you do. And the other thing about Norris is, for me, what I'm counting on him more than anything and hoping, it's less replacing him as a center like that. It would be replacing what he could give them on the power play. The power play has stunk, and this guy has been good on the power play. And I'm more worried about replacing that because they have not had any options on that opposite Tage side for 2 years now. And if he starts to prove that he can be that and then he gets hurt, I mean, that's the spot you're not going to be able to fill. You could fill the center spot. You just bump Tage over.
A plan for Tage would be part of this, right? How do they think where do they want him? They want him at center? They want him on the wing?
They talked at the end of the season like he's going to play wing until they need him to play center. Yeah.
803-0550 and 1-888-550-2550 to join us. Bunch of calls coming in on the Sabres. All right, good. Glad to have it. Let's talk about it. It's the first day of the offseason. The draft's in 9 days. The pressure on Kevin Adams, whatever you want here. Let's get some calls. More calls. We got more time for you. 803-0550 and 1-888-550-2550. I had something else. Oh, I know. Are we talking Hall of Fame for Sam Reinhardt? Time to have that conversation. I mean,
it is.
He has more.
It's time for that.
He has more goals in the Stanley Cup final than anybody else in the first 100 years. Or in the last 100 years, no one has more goals in the Cup final than Sam Reinhardt. He's got 2 cups. League leader in goals.
Wait. Like
in the last 100 years,
he has more
Stanley Cup final goals than anybody in the last 100 years.
Even in only 2 series?
In the final, yeah.
Really?
He's been in 3 series, 3 finals.
Okay, right. He's been in 3.
You have to go back to the Quebec Bulldogs probably or something like that.
Like Gretzky doesn't have more?
The Montreal Maroons. Nope.
Mike Bossy doesn't have more?
Not in the Cup final.
That's unbelievable.
Reinhardt. He's going to the Hall of Fame.
Sweet.
All right.
Great.
Break time.
Can you imagine what if they had somehow been able to hold it together for just a couple more years? What if they were able to keep those guys together for a couple more years and everything else is the same?
Would they have kind of grown up 1 year, 2 years later?
Yeah, because they're in their supporting cast, did it not show up right after they left? The supporting cast, Eichel and Reinhardt specifically, the supporting cast that they needed around them to win, 2 years later, it was almost in the playoffs without them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have Tuck if you do that, right? But isn't that the only key piece you don't have if you're not making these trades?
Tage, Dahlin, Oposo.
Right, like Dahlin grows into his own and wondering, this is kind of a wondering what they would have been if Granato was the coach. And maybe they're doing the same style. And, okay, Cousins has a big year, and Tage moves to center, but he's playing second-line center, so he's still a producer. And kind of they all do grow into it under Granato, but the difference is I've got Eichel and Reinhardt still at the top. I was thinking a lot about that last night because I'm thinking that's a team that you could still be looking at as a perennial playoff team. If you would have got in that first time probably, if everything else is the same and you have those two at the top.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, probably unrealistic. They had already screwed it up because Reinhardt was on a bridge deal. You couldn't keep it together.
Yep.
So, you could have played nice maybe with Eichel and in a different circumstance. Maybe you could have played hardball, but just it doesn't seem tenable, but that was my thought last night that I don't think I've heard said. What would it have looked like if they somehow kept it together a little bit longer? I think there is a real chance, and I have a real worry that Tuck might be going into the final year of his deal without I don't know how good the chances are of him actually re-upping with the Sabres. I'm worried about it. Him more than Peterka, by a lot. I am worried about Tuck wanting to leave because I wonder what that starts to look like. If he wants to go, the guy with the emotional tie to the team from before he was even here, is that the first domino? The first real big domino to fall? Paul yesterday said, just in his own guesstimation, in his opinion, that if they are bad again this season, then that could be it for all of them. That is Dahlin, is Tage going to be able to say, I'm willing to keep going here? Now, they're under contract, so that's a little bit different than the Tuck situation, but are we on the verge of firing back up another stage of suffering and another rebuild? Or retool, call it whatever you want. Another flood of talented players that are just, they're done. They've had enough. I'm out. I don't know how far away we are, but when Paul says that, I don't think he's wrong. And if I were trying to figure out, how much more do they have, I think I might agree with him. That I might feel like if they don't do it this season, these guys are going to start filing out one by one.
When you mentioned the Reinhardt family and Sam with the 4 goals tonight, he joins you in the record books. You were the last player to score 7 goals in one Stanley Cup final. That was back in 1985 when you won the first of your 2 Conn Smythe trophies. So full circle moment with Sam Reinhardt scoring 7 goals in this series.
Hey, all my records this year are dropping like flies, Eddie-O.
Hey, you still got another 40 or 50 on that. You're okay.
So, dug up that Reinhardt doesn't have the most goals ever in the Stanley Cup Finals.
It's in a Cup Final.
In one Stanley Cup Final series, though, he is tied for the most with Gretzky, Jean Beliveau, and Mike Bossy.
All right.
That's your group of guys who have 7. And I believe those other 3 are all in the Hall of Fame.
I forgot that Chris Knobloch took a shot at the Bills last year.
The Oilers coach?
Yeah.
Yeah, he lost
asked,
Super Bowls.
He was asked about experience, and he said you can ask the Buffalo Bills how important experience in the Super Bowl is.
Right.
Which,
yes,
his point was they were there a bunch and they didn't win.
Mm-hmm.
So experience isn't, who cares? His team has lost back-to-back Cup Finals. He's right.
He's right.
He's right. They didn't need it last year. Having it this year didn't help. But
he's also halfway there.
It was right. That's what the kids refer to as catching strays.
Yes,
the Bills are out here catching strays, and I would anticipate they might catch a few more if Edmonton continues to go. Josh says that a guy called during one of the segments and did not go on the air and asked, "Which would you rather do? Go to back-to-back Cup Finals and lose, or have a 14-year playoff drought?" And he said that he would rather have a 14-year playoff drought. And I'm going to try and think of more absurd thing that I'll hear in the next calendar year. It's absolutely unhinged.
It's asinine.
To say you would prefer to have no positive memories for 14 years rather than thousands of positive memories.
Right. Just with some heartbreak at the end.
'Tis better to have loved and lost than never loved at all. You're out of your mind, sir. He didn't come on the air. Would you rather
he probably knew
have Josh Allen and never win a Super Bowl or not? That's like the question.
Yeah.
Which was better? You could have said the drought was more fun.
It's just different. It's just different. It wasn't more fun. It's more fun to reminisce.
Would you rather be awesome or
Yeah.
bad? What depends? Are we tanking for something? No.
This drought's also less fun than the Bills drought. I'll say that.
Significantly less fun.
Because there's 10 times the amount of games.
That's part of it. There's a lot more games.
The draft isn't the same.
They are rare. I mean,
that's really the biggest difference. You hit these off seasons and it's hard to build up hope. Whereas in the NFL draft, it's like every year it's like, well, maybe this is the year we hit on a quarterback.
Right. Just find a quarterback and you'll be fine.
Right.
And there really doesn't kind of exist for the Sabres. Anyway. Offseason begins today. The draft is in 9 days. Marcel Louis-Jacques joins us at 9 o'clock. We'll talk about the Dolphins and what's going on with them because they're in a strange timeline for NFL teams in this little weird netherworld. So we'll get his thoughts on that, how things are going at Dolphins camp. That's coming up at 9. Plenty more to get to. 803-0550, 1-888-550-2550 on the Panthers, who have won the Cup. Jeremy and Joe on WGR. Good morning, everyone. The Panthers win. Back-to-back champs for them. You know, the question to kind of ask there is whether or not the primary thing you feel is anger or indifference.
Mm-hmm. Because it's one of the two. I think it's one of the two for everybody.
Which is what you asked yesterday early in the show, is like, when did you check out? And yeah. I don't feel either of those things. I don't feel, I mean, of course, there's plenty of, anger about how things have gone. I definitely don't feel indifference. I just feel like a level of acceptance about, and that's really it. To me, it's accepting how bad things were, and I don't know when things will get better, but I do know that today is the first day towards them getting better. And someday, they'll be good again. In theory.
I was going to say.
Someday, they'll be good again.
There are some days where I wonder if that's even true, or if they'll move before they're good.
There's Florida good, and then there's just, like Ottawa good. Mm-hmm. They can be Ottawa good, and it would be our favorite season in 14 years. Probably. So they'll be good again, and someday when they're good again, it'll start today, the day after the Cup final. The draft is in 9 days.
Still, every time you say
right, the draft is in 9 days.
Imagine what if they had somehow been able to hold it together for just a couple more years? What if they were able to keep those guys together for a couple more years and everything else is the same?
Would they have kind of grown up 1 year, 2 years later?
Yeah, because they're in their supporting cast, did it not show up right after they left? The supporting cast, Eichel and Reinhardt specifically, the supporting cast that they needed around them to win, 2 years later, it was almost in the playoffs without them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have Tuck if you do that, right? But isn't that the only key piece you don't have if you're not making these trades?
Tage, Dahlin, Oposo,
right? Like Dahlin grows into his own, and wondering. This is kind of a wondering what they would have been if Granato was the coach. And maybe they're doing the same style. And, okay, Cousins has a big year, and Tage moves to center, but he's playing second-line center, so he's still a producer. And kind of they all do grow into it under Granato, but the difference is I've got Eichel and Reinhardt still at the top. I was thinking a lot about that last night because I'm thinking that's a team that you could still be looking at as a perennial playoff team. If you would have got in that first time probably, if everything else is the same and you have those two at the top. So, again, probably unrealistic. They had already screwed it up because Reinhardt was on a bridge deal. You couldn't keep it together.
Yep.
So you could have played nice maybe with Eichel and in a different circumstance. Maybe you could have played hardball, but just it doesn't seem tenable. But that was my thought last night that I don't think I've heard said. Like, what would it have looked like if they somehow kept it together a little bit longer? The Florida Panthers are Stanley Cup champs for the second year in a row. Sam Reinhardt for the second year in a row, leading them to victory in the clinching game. Last year was the game-winning goal. This year, he scores 4 in the game, including a beautiful goal in the first to start the scoring. He did have 2 empty netters late. Edmonton pulled their goalie the first time at 7 minutes remaining in the third period. So Reinhardt scores 4, the first player to ever have his first 4-goal performance in a Stanley Cup final. Sam Bennett wins the Conn Smythe. He led the playoffs in goals. He will also be a free agent in a couple of weeks. NHL draft in 9 days. The whole offseason begins today. NBA Finals off tonight, back in action tomorrow, 8:30 tip-off between the Thunder and the Pacers. Oklahoma City leading the series 3-2. Sean McVay says that the Rams and running back Kyron Williams have made progress on a contract extension. Also, today is the start of the 11-day power play. 9 o'clock this morning is the first game at Harbor Center. The opening ceremonies are going to be at 6 o'clock a little bit later on. We'll be skating Team WGR in 8 days. You could still donate to our team. Go to the 11-day power play website and hit the donate button in the top right. You could search Team WGR. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership.
I'm a big believer in Sam Reinhardt as a player and a person. I think he's an excellent hockey player. But the fact of the matter is, he wasn't going to be here past this year, and he was entering into a UFA situation. So as we're building this out, you look at these things and you're projecting where are we going to be in a year, 2, 3 years, and you have to make hard decisions. And that's where we were, obviously, with the Sam decision.
Kevin Adams from way back when they traded Sam Reinhardt. Wasn't going to stay. Tried to get what they could for him. They got Yuri Kulik. They got Devin Levi. One of those had to do it. And that was the offer. I don't think we were too mad about the return at the time. I still don't think that there's too much to be said about the return. It's years ago. A lot of the first hour of the show, good morning, Jeremy and Joe. We're not just, punishing ourselves and just being mad at everything. Not today, at least. A little bit of, What's to say that hasn't been said? Some fun stats. The Panthers win. They're good. We found out Matthew Kachchuck had his leg muscle torn off the bone. One of the stats today is Corey Perry has lost the Stanley Cup in 5 of the last 6 years. Thank goodness
that poor guy.
He did win it once. He won it.
He won it as a rookie, I think, didn't he?
I thought didn't he win it with Tampa?
No. He won it with Anaheim in 2007.
Okay, so
I think he's 5 of his last. I think the other year he didn't make it. They lost in the first round.
Okay, that's right.
So he hasn't won.
He's with Tampa in 2023.
Right.
Yeah, he only won once.
Okay, so he won in his second season in the league.
Good, thank goodness.
In 2007, and then never won it with Anaheim, obviously, after that, and then left Anaheim. And since he's left Anaheim, he's been in the final 5 of 6 years, and he's lost all 5 of them with Dallas, Montreal, Tampa.
Montreal's kind of
so
funny.
actually he lost it with Montreal to Tampa.
Then went to Tampa.
Lost with Tampa, and then went to Edmonton and has lost twice in a row.
That's the reverse Chris Kunitz.
Shouldn't the Sabres acquire him? This is the caller last night. Like, isn't it better to lose in the Stanley Cup final? No, and here's how I'll prove it to you. I want to sign Corey Perry to guarantee that I will lose in the Stanley Cup final next season. I'm in. Let's do it.
Bill's Banter tweeted that at me, too. Shouldn't they have Corey Perry lock in a playoff berth?
Yes, 100%.
Corey Perry.
That does probably hurt once it gets to 5.
I feel like it hurts when it gets to 1.
5
2,
out of 6?
3.
You got to feel like, what do I got to do here? You got to play for Florida. That would be funny,
Edmonton.
Wouldn't it? If he goes to Florida in the offseason.
And then they lose.
And then they lose in the final to whoever's in the West.
803-0550. One question I asked that was kind of fun. You can get your thoughts on the Sabres if you'd like. Because, mixed in with the is a little bit of like the offseason starts today. And if they're ever going to do anything and, make a splash, whether that's Byram or Peterka. I saw yesterday. I'll say this about Peterka. It's the noisiest rumor mill you've ever seen in your life.
Yes, every day I got
every day.
Saravelli yesterday.
Frank Saravelli is, you want to say, like plugged into Peterka's agent? Maybe that might be where this is all coming from.
Gotta be, or something like that, yeah.
Yeah, Frank Saravelli on Peterka said yesterday that it's firing up, it's red hot. Like a bunch about how, like, I got to find the exact quote here because it was kind of nuts. Like in the last 4 days, the Peterka thing's gone off the. The JJ Peterka file has really heated up in the last 4 to 5 days. That's Frank Saravelli on Sportsnet 960.
Mm-hmm.
So every day we're getting a Peterka this, Peterka that, and we're 2 weeks away from signing offer sheet season. We're 9 days away from the draft, and maybe you don't want to trade Peterka. Maybe it's a scenario where it is really red hot, and Kevin Adams is fielding a lot of calls, but it's a lot of teams that think they can get over on the Sabres, and it's not exactly a bidding war so much as it's everybody throwing something at you and seeing if it would stick.
Yep.
The guy in your fantasy league that's terrible and he's got a player and everybody likes him, but no one's going to make really big offers. Just going to see if you can. Let me submit this offer in the middle of the night and see if I wake up to an accepted trade.
Yeah.
So that could be happening.
They post on the message board like, "Hey, I'm looking to trade this guy," and then everybody reaches out to them, and like you reach out and like, "What about a second round pick and this guy?" He's like, "Yeah, what about AJ Brown?"
Right.
Like, all right, that's enough of this conversation.
Right. So whatever, that's out there on Peterka.
Well, because really, it's hard to. Isn't it hard to see them
winning a Peterka trade?
Getting better right now with a Peterka trade? You could win it, but the Reinhardt trade is maybe an example of it can take a while to win it, even if you feel good about your return. The Sabres got Tage Thompson out of the Ryan O'Reilly deal.
It took a while.
It took forever.
Well, that's probably
the Reinhardt trade was 4 years ago now. You feel pretty good about both individuals that to different extents, more about Kulich.
I feel better about Kulich just because his path is already he's here.
But to different extents, I feel like you feel pretty good about both guys you acquired in the deal. And at the moment, you still 4 years later have nothing really to show for it. You're expecting to, but not in 4 years.
The difference is in the Reinhardt trade, you heard the comments there from Kevin Adams, where we are, where we're going, that's the start of a rebuild. And they are not doing that right now. So if 31 offers come in for Peterka, you're saying hello, yes. If it starts with picks and prospects, see you later. Unless you have, you answer a call on the other hand, if I gave you a pick and a prospect, would you give me something from your team? You could combine Peterka and Byram. I mean, the Sabres trade Steve Ott and Ryan Miller in the same deal to try and add first and second round picks. And that was so, add it together, maybe. Maybe they both go to Vancouver for Pettersson. I don't know, whatever. The offseason's underway, and we can talk about it with you at 803-0550. One quick little fun conversation we had in the break was, we see it. There's the highlight. There's Phil Pritchard, who's getting the cup ready.
Yeah,
this guy's life is, of course, going around with the cup. And then in a game like last night, he's got to feel like he's is he every 30 seconds buffing the cup? Or does he stand there for 2.5 hours while they say, "Hold on, Phil," and go. And then he buffs the cup.
Yeah.
When the camera goes to him, and we're clear. Okay.
I like to believe that he's just standing there all the time and buffing the cup. Yeah, at all times. Until he hands it over to Barkov, and then he doesn't see it again he follows them around, doesn't he? When they haven't?
I think so.
Keeper of the cup, and then you're in the background at all times.
The Panthers broke the cup last night, too.
They broke it. They dented it?
Yeah, there was a crack in the top rim.
Really?
Really small, not like what Colorado did.
I'm surprised this isn't a bigger story. The cup got cracked last night. Does Pritchard run in and grab it away from them the second that happens?
It'd be funny if they stripped them of the cup. Actually, it's Edmonton's. If you guys can't take care of it, you can't have it. You got to be respectful of this thing.
I mean, what if they lost the cup? Then you, I think, have to be stripped of it. When you refind it, you don't get it back. You lost this.
It sounds like the plot of a National Treasure 4 movie or something.
Lost the Stanley Cup?
The Stanley Cup has been lost.
I mean, is there a protocol for that? Hey, Phil. It's Barkov.
Yeah.
Phil, I got something to tell you. We don't know where the cup is. It's gone.
It's the plot of the next Hangover movie.
Maybe. There's got to be a process.
Well, there's more than one cup. I think there are 3.
I think there's 4.
Now there's 4 cups. All right. Well, then you got plenty.
But but 2 of them are not really the cup, right?
There's a show cup. There's a Hall Cup.
The one that just sits at the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
That one's not the cup. You're just sitting at the Hall of Fame. That's not the Stanley Cup. The Stanley Cup is the one that the players are kissing and being awarded by, the commissioner. That's the cup.
Oilers lose.
And McDavid loses again.
Feels like they maybe should have gotten a goalie.
Wasn't everybody saying it too at the trade deadline? They're not going to get a goalie today,
right?
And they didn't. And the guy, what is he doing last night?
Stuart Skinner
just put it out in front for everybody to have, so casual.
I thought about.
He had a lot of those moments.
I thought about coming in this morning and asking Owen about it. Our little as a goalie segment for our senior goaltending correspondent, because on the broadcast, Brian Boucher is on the broadcast there, right?
Yeah.
They're trying to say maybe he this, maybe he that, and Brian Boucher's like, that's the worst play I've ever seen in my entire life.
That is
he's like, I wish I could say something else, but I've never. I mean, Brian Boucher, he wanted him off the team at the moment it happened.
I think that's probably the last game we see Stu Skinner play with the Oilers if they're smart, because you can't have Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl and trust him any more than you have already.
Yeah.
But that goal, that should be that's a fly ball that you're just getting under as a center fielder. That's the easiest play that he should have made all night.
Just the cross glove, grab it with your left.
Grab it, dude. Be a little bit of an athlete. Instead, he
I think
thrusts his chest at it.
I think I'd rather he headed away.
Seriously, got a
throw
better
your
chance.
mask.
It was
into it.
Just a complete brain fart from him. I don't know what to do. I'm just gonna put something at this.
And it really felt like the game was over right there.
Yeah, and
3-0.
That's it. Exactly. Yeah. You're at 2-0. All you need is a little McDavid magic, and you're alive. 3-0, then I think that's over.
Yep.
And you just can't trust that guy to go back in the net for them, I don't think.
Well, I believe he's at one more year, but
2.6.
Maybe he's their backup next year.
They're going to need to find somebody else to play goal for them in the playoffs. I can't see them wanting, or even frankly McDavid saying, I'm okay with this.
Yeah.
Because you just can't trust it.
We'll get a call from Rich here 1 second, but I just want to make one more point. We asked the question, or somebody called in and said, would you rather have a 14-year playoff drought or go to the Cup Finals back-to-back years and lose? I've got a person to ask that question. Ask Jeff Skinner.
Mm-hmm.
He had never made the playoffs until this year.
Right.
And just went to the Cup Finals, and he didn't play a lot in the playoffs, but he played last night.
Man, he did. They put him up on the second line at one point because I think they just needed to find scoring at some point. He had a couple chances, but didn't get one.
Rich in Lakeview. Hey, Rich, good morning.
Good morning. Hey, listening to you guys talk about what would you rather. If you came to me when I was in high school in the 80s and now on the cusp of retirement and tell me Miami would have more Stanley Cups than Buffalo by the time I was closer to retirement, I would have laughed. Said, they're not even in the league. What are you talking? Miami? Florida, stop. And listen, I would have loved to be there. I mean, for you guys, it was the party in the plaza. For us, it was just the absolute glow of growing up and watching the Sabres and being a part of it. So, yeah, I would rather be there. I would do that. But, yesterday I was just running through the rabbit hole of hockey, and I ran on the Cam and Strick podcast, and Tage Thompson was on it. I tell you, I learned more about this guy in an hour, a little over an hour, than I have in all the years he's been in Buffalo. It was candid. Didn't throw anybody under the bus, but there were so many positive and negatives, and read through the lines. Number one, how important his dad was to his own development and what he does as a player, and how competitive he is. Tage has always seemed kind of quiet and, to me, gentle. This guy is fired up. He wants to be to compete. It's so into it. But then I don't want to read too much between the lines how unhappy Peterka is. Not saying Tage is unhappy, because when you cash that check every Friday, it's got to be nice no matter where you are. But echoing the weather, why he moved off of the waterfront, how terrible it is in the winter, how gray it is. My dad got stuck. The fight where nobody stuck up for him. But also you learn about how awesome Reinhardt and Eichel and Skinner were as teammates. We've never heard this kind of stuff, but what there wasn't was any hope for the future. Listen, my daughter did D3 soccer. The best player walked her through and tried to sell the school. His wish is maybe I get to play golf with Josh once, because they asked about Josh Allen. They're like, you don't have any endorsements? He goes, not in Buffalo. We don't win too much. We don't get touched. He's like, nothing, not even a free car. He's like, nothing. Have you golfed with Josh? I'd love to, but I've never done that. Like, what is going on? So when Paterka says that, it almost seems like they're biding their time, waiting to get out, because you figure on this podcast it would have been, we're looking for the future, we're looking up, they're bringing in some guys, next year is going to be the year. There was absolutely none of it. And it wasn't negative, but it wasn't positive at all.
Yeah, thanks, Rich. Tage is on with Andy Strickland.
Yeah.
Did a big, long conversation with him. One of the clips you mentioned, we can get to a couple things there, but he talked about, and they show the highlight of him getting hit against Stefan Neuwiesen, is who did it, and how nobody on the Sabres responded. I actually wrote something down to bring up today on that, and he did talk about how he's like, I'm the one on the ice, and it was pretty tough to see that nobody did anything there, and Lindy in the room said, like, that can't happen again. And the thing I thought of, Joe, I don't know if we want to do this, because this would be like, you know what we need? We've got our bet board. We need another one. We need a snarky bet board.
Yeah, bet wall. Like a different
because
flavor of bet board?
Because this is one that we don't want to bet. I don't know if we want to actually bet this.
Uh-huh.
Will that happen this year? Somebody gets hit and the Sabres don't respond appropriately? It seems to happen most years. We talk about it a lot. It's been, Miller, Lucic, go all the way back to then.
Sure.
And in the number of years since, I'm sure it doesn't happen every year, but will that definitely not happen this year?
Honestly, I'm at a point now where it really depends on individual players. Who's on the ice?
Well, in that
is
case,
Matthias Samuelsson on the ice? Because then absolutely it's going to happen.
Well, Zucker was on the ice, and he didn't see it, and Zucker got extended, and Zucker said, is that the game after where Zucker talked about how important it was to be on the power play?
He talked about that night, about that part of it, yes.
Like the game's not over.
But everybody on the team sounded different. Lindy sounded different about it. Darlene sounded angry about it and said that can never happen again. Because that would be my answer. Who's on the ice? If Darlene's on the ice, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
If Benson's on the ice, it's not going to happen. Isn't that a problem, though?
If Krebs is on the ice or on the team.
My number one defenseman, maybe that's not a problem. You probably want that, right? You want your captain, your leader, your best player to be that way. Because I have no question about whether Darlene would have jumped in there. Is it a problem, though, that the second name I mentioned is the 19-year-old 5'7" dude? Because I have no question about whether he'd jump in there. But if my 6'4" defenseman that's under contract for $4 million for 6 more years is out there, yes, it's going to happen again. Yeah. But I don't know. Tage doesn't do things like that. Like, he will defend teammates without even thinking about it. So that's kind of where that was a letdown. Was it felt like it was the perfect storm of guys out there that you got a rookie, you got a Zucker is, I guess, whatever for this, and then I got 2 defensemen that it's not really in their DNA. So I don't know. When I think of that part of all of it, though, like Tage and Darlene are the 2 that I care about the most, right? Like, aren't they the leaders of that room? Shouldn't they be the leaders of that room? Tage did say in the postseason press conference that, like, Darlene will give it to guys, and he gives it to me. Like, he said he'll get after me about stuff, and I give it back to him. Like, that, I think that's what you want to hear, is those 2 specifically being willing to kind of hold everybody accountable to do your job, because, maybe even if the source of it is, well, I'm sick of sitting here and watching you all fail, because I've been losing my entire careers. Those 2 have been here for 7 years now. Longer than that, right? They're on the 10-game win streak team.
Right.
So I want them to have that dynamic, and I liked hearing at the end of the season that maybe they do have a little bit of that. Those 2 specifically.
To the point, Rich, about, like, Reinhardt and Eichel as teammates and all that, like, there's been a million stories told about what went right, what went wrong, and, to hear Tage talk about those 2 as, like, good teammates, like, you're right, that's not a story we often get. The closest I remember getting that was Middlestat did an interview about it, and Darlene as well. About how
Poso went to the final when it was Florida versus Vegas and talked about them.
Yeah, I mean, like, you get plenty of players that say, like, they weren't the problem. So, anyway, 803-0550, 1-888-550-2550, which I think all of us know by now. What else?
There was a brawl in the WNBA last night. Is brawl strong?
It might be strong, but it was
a brouhaha.
We had ourselves a physical game, and Caitlin Clark is back, not only raining threes, but also getting lit up right?
Yeah.
Like she got bodied to the ground in this game.
She got punched in the face, and then there was like a little collision between the two, and then someone ran in and like open ice checked her to the ground.
Yeah.
And then one of her teammates like grabbed another player's hair and ripped her down, and then it was like it was
a brouhaha.
I think yeah. We'll go with that one.
A dust-up.
Did it graduate to Donnybrook?
I feel like Donnybrooks are only in hockey.
Really?
I don't know. Feels like
you can't have a Donnybrook unless it's on the ice?
No, if the Bills and Jaguars fought, would you call it a Donnybrook? No. That's a
you couldn't.
It's a frickus.
I think I want to call it that though. I think I want to introduce it more into the language of everything else. You're right though. I don't know when I've ever used it that it wasn't. I just did on the court.
It's a scene of uproar and disorder, a heated argument.
There you go.
A Donnybrook. You know what we need? We need like the Beaufort wind scale, but with these like a frickus. You know?
Wait, like which one is more aggressive than others?
Yeah.
Like a scuffle is below a Donnybrook.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, for sure.
A dust up.
Yeah.
Because you said brawl, and you don't want to go to brawl.
No, that's the highest, isn't it?
Is melee above or below brawl?
Ooh,
a melee.
A melee is below. Because a melee could just be two people, right? Fighting. A brawl implies that everybody's in it, I think.
Okay.
So I would go brawl over melee. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you want just like I'm searching Google, brawl.
What about a rumble?
Is a noisy, disorderly fight. That's a brawl, and a melee is a confused fight. Confused hand.
Fight.
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
I don't know. We'll dig further.
What about a hoedown? That would be lower or higher?
A hoedown's a party. Hoedown's like a dance.
It is?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay, that makes sense. A rumble. A slugfest, a turmoil.
Handling the big issues we are today.
Yeah.
803-0550 and 1-888-550-2550. One last thing. The point about Tage saying snowy and gray skies. A team played hockey yesterday. But half a party in the plaza
I was going to say he hasn't been here in May yet.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Has he ever been in Buffalo in May?
Although this May might not have been a good one. But still, the point stands. 803-0550 to join us on, really anything for that matter. Happy Wednesday, June 18th. The draft is in 9 days. And we're waiting on the Bills. Ooh, actually, we did get a potential Bills date on something we will all have something to say about. I'll tell you what that is coming up in mid-July. Good morning, everyone. The Panthers win. Back-to-back champs for them. The question to kind of ask there is whether or not the primary thing you feel is anger or indifference.
Mm-hmm. Because it's one of the two. I think it's one of the two for everybody.
Which is what you asked yesterday early in the show, is like, when did you check out? And I don't feel either of those things. I don't feel, of course, there's plenty of, anger about how things have gone. I definitely don't feel indifference. I just feel like a level of acceptance about, and that's really it. To me, it's accepting how bad things were, and I don't know when things will get better, but I do know that today is the first day towards them getting better. And someday, they'll be good again. In theory.
I was going to say.
Someday, they'll be good again.
There are some days where I wonder if that's even true, or if they'll move before they're good.
There's Florida good, and then there's just, like Ottawa good. Mm-hmm. They can be Ottawa good, and it would be our favorite season in 14 years. Probably. So they'll be good again, and someday when they're good again, it'll start today, the day after the Cup final. The draft is in 9 days.
Still, every time you say it,
the draft is in 9 days. I mentioned roster build.
The Panthers win the Cup again, second consecutive season. Sam Reinhardt, 4 goals last night, which ties the NHL record for, at least since the merger, or since expansion, most goals in a Stanley Cup final. Scored 7. Wayne Gretzky, Jean Beliveau, and Mike Bossy, the only other players in that time period to score 7 in a series. Sam Bennett wins the Conn Smythe. He'll be a free agent in a couple of weeks. We're 9 days away from the NHL draft, and then only a couple more days after that until NHL free agency. The NBA Finals off tonight. Back in action tomorrow at 8:30. The Thunder and the Pacers, OKC leading the series 3-2. Kyron Williams, running back of the Rams, and the team are closer on a contract extension. That's according to their head coach, Sean McVay. And Jeremy Fowler reports that Trey Hendrickson and the Bengals have resumed talks about a possible contract extension. Those are your Paddock Chevrolet sports headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership.
It's incredible. It's a feeling you can't really describe, and seeing the family and everyone up there and everyone that supported me and helped me get to this point, there's nothing. Words can't put this into reality. How great it feels, and such an incredible group. Everybody wrote us off from starting our playoffs. They had everybody beating us in every round, and we just had that fire, and we knew we had something special. It's incredible. It's incredible to be part of this group right now.
Brad Marchand of the defending Stanley Cup champions claiming that everybody had them losing in every round.
Just ban them. Ban everybody that tries to claim that when you're favored to win all of these series. Except maybe they were underdogs against Toronto when they were down 2-0.
Right.
Ooh.
Jeremy
so
Joe.
Disrespected.
Good morning. Edmonton falls and Florida wins. It's I've got an email here that just came in from Front Office Sports, like a memo with a bunch of storylines, sports business stories. And one thing here it says at the bottom is Florida's continued dominance could be a boon for the growth of hockey in the American South, a significant opportunity for the NHL, especially as Atlanta pushes to secure a new franchise in the potential next era of league expansion. One thing about the South and all this expansion in the last couple of years, they've taken all the cups. Tampa, Florida, Vegas.
Yep.
It's been a while.
The last like classic hockey market to win it was who?
Chicago? Washington?
What am I doing though when I say classic? Am I just thinking of original 6 teams? Really, is that all I'm doing?
You're just you're thinking of cold places,
and original 6 teams basically.
Is that wrong?
What was the last really cold place to win a cup?
Colorado.
Yeah, Colorado. Okay, they're pretty cold.
Yeah.
All right, there you go. That's not that long ago.
So, quick note: I teased something going to the break about a Bills date in the future, and there's a little bit of a guess involved here. But Adam Schefter tweeted something yesterday that at first I was jumping on. July 15th. That's our day. The Chargers are going to reveal third jerseys on July 15th. And my first reaction was like, that must be NFL, the Rivalries series, when we get all these new jerseys. And it's not, because the Chargers are not in the Rivalries series. Okay. It's the AFC East and the NFC West, not the AFC West. Some point, though, this year, we're going to get teasers. We're going to get, hey, here's a quick glimpse at, one of the sets? Yeah. And if you're the NFL, let's game this out. 8 teams are getting a new jersey, a new uniform setup. 4 in the AFC East, 4 in the NFC West. They will wear these uniforms for 3 years in these divisional matchups. So the NFL, that likes to win every single month of the calendar and dominate discussion, and after the Stanley Cup is awarded, they'll have PK Subban on the Shouty shows, and then they're going to talk about Dak's legacy.
Yes.
When is the right time to start to roll out these uniforms, these 8 new uniform sets? Is it around the time of the NFL Top 100? Because that's another event on the calendar for the NFL where, let's start arguing about who's good and who's not and who's underrated. And so I feel like we should at least get some sort of teaser or one set or something. Here are the Chargers just dropping a third jersey on July 15th. When are the Bills?
Yeah.
When's this rivalry series uniform happening?
If I were them, what I'd want to do, because what am I trying to do? I'm the NFL calendar and trying to own the year at all times. So where do I want to put it? Can I release one a day?
In July before training camp?
In July, hey, Tuesdays and Thursdays in July, leading up to training camp, we're going to release 1 rivalry uniform a day. So here's the schedule. The Bills, you're releasing yours on Thursday, July 15th or something. That would be the best time to do it. They probably just drop them all at once, though, don't they? Wouldn't you think that's how they roll it out? Remember when the NHL did their reverse retro series?
Yep.
That was just one day. Bam! There's the drop. There's the video from Adidas, and here's all the jerseys.
Yep.
So that seems to be how teams, I think, more typically do it. Premier League, I think you get it more of a trickle out.
It's a rollout.
Yeah,
and that's not even
that happens before their previous season's even over.
And those are also a lot of leaks. I found this at a sporting goods store.
Okay.
A lot of times someone just takes a picture of a jersey, here it is.
Maybe that's how we find out about. Although with football, you still won't get the full, because the jersey's only one part of it. That's what you buy, but I'll be more interested in the helmets and the combo of everything.
Alex in New York City. Hey, Alex, good morning.
Good morning, gents. How are we?
Good.
Thanks for the time. So I want to touch on Peterka and then the Dolphins, but it's a beautiful day. My blood is boiling. I don't know why. Well, I do know why. Because of the Sabres. And I don't care about Reinhardt. It's about Peterka. Last week, we were talking about trade ideas for JJ. And it's not because, we need to trade JJ Peterka. It's just he's a low-cost, high-value asset. Maybe we could help our team. And then Monday, it's there's the people are talking about the JJ Peterka sweepstakes. And it feels to me like the NHL is they're picking on the Sabres. And you mentioned this earlier in the show, Jamie, Kevin Adams could be had. And maybe we could get a good deal for Peterka right now, but it's just as a matter of principle, you want to deal from a position of strength.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we need to hold on to him. He has no leverage right now, really, in my view. He's not going to play in Germany, so I think it makes more sense to wait till the season, gets going and go from there. But right now, I don't want to do that. I think you guys are on the same page there. Maybe not.
I am mostly. I mean, I don't. Part of it for me is I don't really see, unless they are packaging him with other things and going and getting like Jason Robertson, and maybe I should consider that possible. I don't think they're getting better from a Peterka trade. So no, do what the Browns did.
Yeah,
Miles Garrett's not Peterka's not Miles Garrett, but say, yeah, no, I know you just wrote a letter saying you want out of here, and Peterka hasn't even done that, but I'm not doing it.
Exactly. Like, go win games, and these guys are young. Like, I think that's all these guys want to do is win. That's all. And I think if you do that, if you make the right moves this summer, you can do that and keep all of these guys, and it all goes away. Next thing, Dolphins. My blood's boiling, but the Dolphins give me joy. They are the boy who cried wolf of the NFL. And I can relate because it's peak drought bills for them right now. And they're talking about how they lied last year, right? Like, they were all on the same page, but really they weren't. Guys weren't pulling their weight, etc. And then one other thing that I heard out of Dolphins camp is that they are trying to make a more robust football operations, and their big move is to change the time of their training camp practices, like move them up 2 hours to start at 9 a.m. versus 11 a.m. And I don't think it's the most ridiculous thing. I think that could help. Like, McDermott did that when he came in, right? And I think he moved all training camp practices to 8 a.m. So it's not something necessarily to sneeze at. But the difference is that that was a new regime coming in. These are the same people. These are mostly the same players, the same coaches, and it's like they're pulling one over on their media, essentially. So I'm interested to see where Marcel stands, if he's drinking the Kool-Aid or not.
Yeah, one thing that I saw on this, like, criticism even from Miami people, was Tua saying when they got to minicamp that he believes that there has been a culture shift and that it is vastly different than it was last year, when someone pointed out, like, the locker room is almost the same. Mm-hmm. Like, Jalen Ramsey is the only one.
He's not even traded yet.
Right. He's not off the team. He's not in the locker room right now, but that's like the only difference. Him and Armstead. So is there really this big culture shift? Or is it just talk? Or is it just hard to believe that there would be a culture shift unless you change the coach, for instance?
Yeah, they're in a weird spot where lame duck coach, maybe. They've had some success. How different are the Dolphins and the Steelers right now? You have a long drought without a playoff win. You have made the playoffs. You've hovered around the same-ish record for a while. Your quarterback situation is one where it's like, The difference is the Steelers do it with defense, the Dolphins do it with offense.
And the Dolphins do it with the same quarterback every year, and the Steelers are rotating. The other difference is you, I think, can very easily get to, well, they'll change things if it doesn't go well.
Yeah.
Right? And the Steelers, there's no belief of that. That if they fall on their face, it's Tomlin. This is the Mike Tomlin show. And in Miami, what does McDaniel have to do to be fired? 7 wins? Does he get fired with 8?
I bet he gets fired with...
Just missing the playoffs?
Yeah.
That's it?
He could get fired.
What if he makes the playoffs and they get smoked?
That could be he could be fired there too, I think.
So that's the key difference, is the coach's job is on the line in Miami, and the coach's job is never on the line in Pittsburgh. Right. Ever.
803-0550. On Peterka, I don't even really think it's about his leverage. He wants to leave, and if that's the case, and again, like, you might think it kind of popped up and now it's gone to a crazy degree, and I would tend to agree. Like, every day, Frank Saravalli seems to have something on Peterka and a new trade rumor, and maybe there was another one yesterday that Tampa wants in on the Peterka sweepstakes.
Yep.
So, okay, like, everybody's in on it. I said on the air here in November, I heard that the Sabres and Peterka might not be a long-term match because there's stuff that has kind of all come to this point. Like, all right, if they've known it this long and it's not changed, it's not really even about contract. He just doesn't want to be here.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a player and you've heard the GM say multiple times publicly, well, guys want to be here. Like, oh, okay, I don't. Are you live up to your word? Let's go. Let's make it happen.
Well, or is the GM's word changed? Or has his mindset changed? That was a long time ago that he was talking like that, right?
Yep.
Maybe he still says it, and I'm just missing it. But like when I think of him saying guys that want to be here, it's when they traded Reinhardt and traded Eichel. And that was 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and what's changed?
I'd like to believe that you'd be more willing now, especially with the spot you'd be in, going into year 6 as the GM as opposed to year, 2, 3, that, okay, the guy doesn't want to be here, but he's really good. You could argue he didn't want to be here last year, and he put up 68 points for you.
Sure.
So okay, don't want to be here while scoring 80 for me.
Saravalli, he said this too. Like, it's Frank Saravalli. You don't have to think he knows what he's talking about. It's totally fine. You make the call here. On his daily face-off rundown, he said, at least a quarter of the Sabres roster is unhappy with the direction of the team. He listed Power, Tuck, Samuelsson, and other core players could enter the trade market. Power would be a new one.
Samuelsson, I mean, have fun with
Samuelsson,
that.
of course. But, like, Power would be a new one. We haven't heard that one too much. But that's
haven't
the thing.
Even
like,
thought of that.
If I just told you, like, hey, I've heard a quarter of the Sabres roster is unhappy with the direction of the team, you would think, like, well, that might make sense.
I might say it's only a quarter.
You might wonder about the Cousins trade, how that goes over, whatever. Anyway, congratulations.
Which quarter is my question? Is Beck Malenstein upset with the no disrespect to Beck Malenstein, but like I'm not really worried if he's upset with it.
Well, Marcel Louis-Jacques joins us at 9, talk a little bit about the Dolphins, and we'll take your calls as well if you want to jump in. We got plenty of time for you. Jeremy and Joe on WGR.
Can you imagine what if they had somehow been able to hold it together for just a couple more years? What if they were able to keep those guys together for a couple more years and everything else is the same?
Would they have kind of grown up 1 year, 2 years later?
Yeah, because they're in their supporting cast, did it not show up right after they left? The supporting cast, Eichel and Reinhardt specifically, the supporting cast that they needed around them to win, 2 years later, it was almost in the playoffs without them. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have Tuck if you do that, right? But isn't that the only key piece you don't have if you're not making these trades?
Tage, Dahlin, Oposo.
Right, like Dahlin grows into his own and wondering, this is kind of a wondering what they would have been if Granato was the coach. And maybe they're doing the same style. And, okay, Cousins has a big year, and Tage moves to center, but he's playing second-line center, so he's still a producer. And kind of they all do grow into it under Granato, but the difference is I've got Eichel and Reinhardt still at the top. I was thinking a lot about that last night because I'm thinking like that's a team that you could still be looking at as a perennial playoff team. If you would have got in that first time probably, if everything else is the same and you have those two at the top.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, probably unrealistic. They had already screwed it up because Reinhardt was on a bridge deal. You couldn't keep it together.
Yep.
So you could have played nice maybe with Eichel and in a different circumstance. Maybe you could have played hardball, but just it doesn't seem tenable. But that was my thought last night that I don't think I've heard said. Like, what would it have looked like if they somehow kept it together a little bit longer? Well, because really, isn't it hard to see them
winning a Peterka trade?
Getting better right now with a Peterka trade? You could win it, but the Reinhardt trade is maybe an example of, though, like, it can take a while to win it, even if you feel good about your return. The Sabres got Tage Thompson out of the Ryan O'Reilly deal.
It took a while.
It took forever.
Well, that's probably
the Reinhardt trade was 4 years ago now. You feel pretty good about both individuals that to different extents, more about Kulich.
I feel better about Kulich just because his path is like already he's here.
But to different extents, I feel like you feel pretty good about both guys you acquired in the deal. And at the moment, you still 4 years later have like nothing really to show for it. You're expecting to, but not in 4 years.
The difference is in the Reinhardt trade, you heard the comments there from Kevin Adams, where we are, where we're going, that's the start of a rebuild. and they are not doing that right now. So if 31 offers come in for Peterka, you're saying like, hello, yes. If it starts with picks and prospects, see you later. Unless you have, you answer a call on the other hand, like, oh, well, if I gave you a pick and a prospect, would you give me something from your team? You could combine Peterka and Byram. I mean, the Sabres trade Steve Ott and Ryan Miller in the same deal to try and add first and second round picks. And that was so, add it together, maybe. Maybe they both go to Vancouver for Pettersson. I don't know, whatever. The offseason's underway. I learned today that this morning was the earliest sunrise of the year. It is not the longest day of the year, but it's the earliest sunrise.
Right.
So,
which seems like it shouldn't be. I would have thought that the longest day of the year would automatically have the earliest sunrise.
Yeah, me too. Learned today that's not the case.
Right.
We did this right before the show. If we talk about this for too long, I can feel my head expanding. So how would that work? So the next couple days, the sunrise is a little bit later, but the day is still longer because it sets later. Tapping out. I don't want to know. One of those things I don't even want to read. The explanation.
Yeah.
But Pat Hammer tweeted it, and then we looked it up, and sure enough, yes. It's often that the longest day of the year is around the 21st, 22nd, the solstice, and the earliest sunrise moves. Sometimes it's near the 14th.
Right.
I don't want to know.
It's above my.
See you later. I'd rather talk about the NFL salary cap and, not likely to be earned incentives and all that. No thanks. All right, Jeremy and Joe, good morning. 803-0550. DJ, we'll get to your phone call on the other side. It's not like, we're not just bathing ourselves in misery this morning. Also learned that Bills offensive coordinator Joe Brady is a Panthers fan.
I did, because I saw a tweet that wasn't 1-0.
Back to back.
Yeah.
With the rat emoji.
Mm-hmm. He's a Panther fan.
Has Joe Brady lost his focus? Of course I'm kidding. All he tweets.
Where is he from?
He's from right near Sunrise, Florida.
Okay, yeah. Right. So he's not. No one would accuse him of being like a bandwagon.
Nope.
Okay. Yeah.
Nope. He's
Pembroke Pines.
He was born in 1990, and he's from right there in Florida.
Which, like, right by Fort Lauderdale also, which is by the arena. Because I discovered going down there a few weeks ago how far away that arena is from, like, Miami.
Oh, yeah.
It's Fort Lauderdale. Miami's, like, with traffic, it'll take you an hour and a half.
Wikipedia says
from Miami to the arena.
He's from Pembroke Pines, which is a little bit inland, which is where Sunrise also is. So, congratulations to Joe Brady on back-to-back cups. And Brooks Koepka and Dustin Johnson, who were there last night as well at the game. Jeremy and Joe, we're going to break in more of your phone calls, 803-0550 on WGR. Good morning, everyone. The Panthers win. Back-to-back champs for them. You know, the question to kind of ask there is whether or not the primary thing you feel is anger or indifference.
Mm-hmm. Because it's one of the two. I think it's one of the two for everybody.
Which is what you asked yesterday early in the show, is like, when did you check out? And I don't feel either of those things. I don't feel, I mean, of course, there's plenty of, anger about how things have gone. I definitely don't feel indifference. I just feel like a level of acceptance about, and that's really it. To me, it's accepting how bad things were, and I don't know when things will get better, but I do know that today is the first day towards them getting better. And someday they'll be good again. In theory.
I was going to say.
Someday they'll be good again.
There are some days where I wonder if that's even true. Or if they'll move before they're good.
There's Florida good, and then there's just, like Ottawa good. Mm-hmm. They can be Ottawa good, and it would be our favorite season in 14 years. Probably. So they'll be good again, and someday when they're good again, it'll start today, the day after the Cup final. The draft is in 9 days.
Still, every time you say
the draft is in 9 days. I've got two stats of the day. We'll double up. Why not? One is that Florida led in this series for more than any other team had led in a series. The numbers on that, Florida, by the way, and it all happened in first periods. The goal differential in the first period in this series, huge. Florida scored 14 to Edmonton's 3 in the first period. Games after 20 minutes, 2-1 Florida, 3-2 Edmonton, and then 2-0, 3-0, 2-0, 2-0 Florida. So that's part of it. Then Chris Johnston added, the Panthers spent more time leading during this Cup final than any team in history. They were leading for 255 minutes and 49 seconds.
Can you imagine what if they had somehow been able to hold it together for just a couple more years? What if they were able to keep those guys together for a couple more years and everything else is the same?
Would they have kind of grown up 1 year, 2 years later?
Yeah, because they're in their supporting cast, did it not show up right after they left? The supporting cast, Eichel and Reinhardt specifically, the supporting cast that they needed around them to win, 2 years later, it was almost in the playoffs without them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have Tuck if you do that, right? But isn't that the only key piece you don't have if you're not making these trades?
Tage, Dahlin, Oposo,
right? Like Dahlin grows into his own, and wondering. This is kind of a wondering what they would have been if Granato was the coach. And maybe they're doing the same style. And, Cousins has a big year, and Tage moves to center, but he's playing second-line center, so he's still a producer. And kind of they all do grow into it under Granato, but the difference is I've got Eichel and Reinhardt still at the top. I was thinking a lot about that last night because I'm thinking that's a team that you could still be looking at as a perennial playoff team. If you would have got in that first time probably, if everything else is the same and you have those two at the top.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, probably unrealistic. They had already screwed it up because Reinhardt was on a bridge deal. You couldn't keep it together.
Yep.
So, you could have played nice maybe with Eichel and in a different circumstance. Maybe you could have played hardball, but just it doesn't seem tenable. But That was my thought last night that I don't think I've heard said. Like, what would it have looked like if they somehow kept it together a little bit longer? Florida wins big 5-1 over Edmonton last night to clinch their second consecutive Stanley Cup. Sam Reinhardt, second player in NHL history with 4 goals in a Stanley Cup clinching win, and he's the first to do it since 1922. 4 goals for Reinhardt. He did not win the Conn Smythe, though. That went to Sam Bennett. Bennett leading the entire playoffs in goals. He'll also be a free agent in a couple of weeks. So Florida wins the Cup. Tomorrow kicks back up the NBA Finals. They were off for a couple of days. Thunder up 3-2 on the Pacers. They can win the championship tomorrow night. In football, the Rams and running back Kyren Williams are making progress on a contract that, according to his head coach, Sean McVay. Ian Rappaport says that Anthony Richardson should be fine by the beginning of training camp in July for the Indianapolis Colts. 11-day power play starts this morning. 9 a.m. is the first game. Opening ceremonies tonight at 6 o'clock. If you want to stop by at Harbor Center. And you can still donate. Go to 11daypowerplay.com, hit the donate button, and search Team WGR. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership.
I didn't think this was possible, and I could have just, personally could have just threw in the towel and just got myself fixed up and missed out. There were days that I wanted to do that, and I knew this group was too special and we had a chance, and I just am so lucky to be on this team with this group of guys. Just a special group, and we got to be a dynasty now. It's 3 years in a row finals, 2 championships. This team is so special, and I just Stanley Cup champion. This never gets old.
Florida Panthers, Matthew Kachchuck there. When he said he could have folded it up, we found out he had a pretty serious lower body injury. We got to be a dynasty. 3 cup finals in a row, 2 championships. That's what the Lightning did right before them. They're also the 3rd team in the last 10 years to go back-to-back. Which I don't think I'm almost more inclined to not call them a dynasty because it's just been done. Yeah.
If Tampa hadn't just won back-to-back, and did they win 3 total?
Tampa won 2.
They won 2. I'm less inclined to call the Panthers a dynasty because someone just did it right before. Bettman, during his introduction awarding the cup, is It's the hardest trophy to win in the league in sports. It's even more impossible to win it back to back. And I'm watching that like, it is? I just saw it 2 years earlier, and I just saw somebody else do it 10 years ago. So I'm not saying it's not hard, but we just saw it. It's a Florida dynasty more than it's a Panthers dynasty or it's a Lightning dynasty. It's the state of Florida dominating hockey for 7 years.
Sal had a good conversation on this on dynasties and yesterday on the Extra Point Show, and it got me thinking about maybe another way to look at dynasties would be to say player dynasties. The Bills are not a dynasty, but the Josh Allen era we are comfortable in defining. And the Chiefs are, they've won 3 out of 4, right? And they were almost at 3 in a row and almost at 4 out of 5 had they won. Mm-hmm. And like every dynasty is going to look different, but the Patriots, what were they? They had 2 separate little runs, and they went 10 years in between. But we would definitely call the Patriots like
they're a dynasty.
Were they for 10 years when they weren't winning? The Brady and Belichick dynasty was they ruled the land for 20 years, and sure, they didn't finish on the top every single time. So, it ends up, you want to almost make it like, you got to check these 3 boxes. If Florida wins next year, are they one? Sure. If they lose in the final, are they? Sure. It tries to make something binary that, of course, has a number of different layers to it.
Well, I think, isn't it true, though, that we talk about this and we debate it when a team has won 2, but not when they've won 3?
Yeah, 3 usually gets the job
When
done.
you've won 3, I think everybody's on the same page. Like, if the Panthers were to win it next year, now, I bet people will debate it all day in hockey circles. Like, is this a dynasty? If they win next year, there will be no debate. They'll just call it that.
Yeah.
That's a dynasty. Like, does anybody debate that the Warriors were a dynasty?
No, I wouldn't.
No, because they won 4.
They went to 5 straight finals?
They went to 5 straight, and they won 5. No, excuse me, they won 4. They missed a year in between, and then without Durant went back and won it again. Like, nobody in the world debates that was whether that was a dynasty or not.
Yeah.
Because they got to a certain number, and it was, okay, this is definitive.
3 titles in 5 years and 5 straight appearances in the finals.
Right. And then they went back a couple years later and won it again. So
the Cavs made the finals 4 years in a row and won one of those?
Yes.
That's
all against the Warriors.
That's right. 4 straight years. Those were good years in the NBA. 803-0550. Very quick point on the NBA because Game 6 in that series is tomorrow, right?
Yep.
So Warriors-Cavs, that was like we say like that was good life.
Yep.
I saw somebody pointing out that the ratings in this series between the Thunder and the Pacers are down, and it's because of a lack of star power. And you might get some hardcore basketball fans that want to dunk on that, like, you're not watching because there's no stars.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, yeah. People like to watch the best players in the world, and especially in the case of the Pacers are interesting here. In Game 5 of that series, Halliburton, now we found out he's hurt. Okay.
You saw him get injured, and he was definitely
playing hurt. Yeah.
Yeah, like Carlisle's getting criticism for putting him back in the game.
Because he shouldn't have played.
Yeah.
But he got hurt in the second half?
Second quarter, I think.
Second quarter, okay.
Yeah.
Because he goes to the free throw line in that game, and I'm watching, and he had 0 points.
Yeah.
And I thought, there have been 120 points scored in this game, and Tyrese Halliburton has none of them.
Mm-hmm. Right.
He gets a little bit of, he's not a tier 1 star.
Yeah.
And the answer is because how could that ever happen?
Right.
That you could have 0 points that deep into a game. I'm not going after him. It's just the star power point.
No, but like his point totals by game, even if you take out the game where he might have been playing injured, 14, 17, 22, 18. Like, pretty good player.
Not bad.
That's not, no one's getting super impressed by, you scored 18 points, huh?
And the NHL here, they have star power in this final. McDavid in a final, McDavid and Draisaitl in a final, I'm going to watch it no matter what. Like, I'm going to watch the best players.
Right.
So,
I
just don't think we have to act like somebody is holier than thou because they'd rather watch more interesting series and not just like, you should watch it no matter what because the quality of the basketball is good. Okay, sure, fine.
Well, the other thing about that series that is little different than the hockey series. The hockey series have stars that have established themselves, right? Like McDavid. These guys are new. Like you're right about the Pacers. Like the Pacers don't really have that.
No, but
the
SGA
Thunder have two guys that are going to be stars for a long time, but this is everybody's first time really watching them. So it's not, because they're not established yet, and because they're not dethroning a king on the other end, like that's going to, I think, hurt them. If LeBron was on the other side, or even if it was just the Celtics, but if it was something bigger on the other side that they were dethroning, I think it would do more for their star power. I think it's actually hurting their just fame that the Pacers are the team that they're going to end up beating here.
Well, also mixed in there is people kind of hate SGA's game.
I hate his game.
You're not alone.
He is going to drive me crazy for 10 years. But he still should be, credited as like a superstar. He won the MVP.
That's right, no doubt. DJ in Virginia. Hey, DJ, what's up?
Hey, guys. Sorry to bring it back to the Sabres, but I want to kind of try and make this point rational about the owner. And so we have an owner, so like I want to compare it to fantasy football a little bit. Like I've been in the same league for like 20 years with the same guys. A couple of them have, they sucked for years, and so they have eventually quit because they just were bad and they were just losing their money every year. We're kind of in the same boat with this owner, and I think this is kind of an important, like the most important offseason, simply because this is kind of the point where he can either show us that he really does care and like he wants us to be good, or he's completely checked out, because this offseason is kind of the point where all our stars, again, are either going to want out, and if they do all want out again, like, I don't know where you go from here. Like, you can't have 15 years of playoff drought and then everyone on the team want to leave again. Like, that's pure rock bottom. So I just kind of wanted to compare it to, like, football. Like, everyone has a breaking point, and, like, there's got to be something, either, wanting to get rid of the team or wanting to actually invest in, make this team good. So just kind of wanted to, bring that up and see what you guys thought.
Is the question about like selling the team?
It's more, I think, about kind of like when will they put, or will they ever put the necessary resources in if it continues to not work? Or will they go round and round and round forever, spending low and performing, on par with that without ever seeing a change? I don't know. I tend to think that is what we'd be headed for. That the year they finally break the playoff drought, I don't know that I don't know. I'm not expecting that season, whenever it comes, to be because they decided to go all in and spend, $20 million more than they're used to. Like that would be like a light bulb, like a switch flipping for them. And how could you believe that's coming at any point? That would be Terry watching it and just being fed up and saying, all right, fine, here you go. Here's an extra $20 million. Go make the team good. Because I'm sick of it. I don't know if there is a sick of it.
I think that we've come a long way from the day that they bought the team. They own another team in town that is very successful, and all the stuff in the Matthew Fairburn article at The Athletic about how once the Bills came into the picture, the Sabres took a back seat. Like, there are going to be denials of that, but there are people that believe that, and people that, sources that would have told Matthew Fairburn that would believe that to be true. So, economic, effective, and efficient. We heard those three words. They do not spend to the cap. Kevin Adams has said, I don't think about the salary cap, which is probably a pretty good indicator that they have an internal cap. Mm-hmm. Maybe if they were to get lightning in a bottle and get good, and it meant, hey, spend this money to stay good,
then they would
I'm thinking of the Golisano years. Like, Golisano, they got good. It was surprising. If you go back to the Golisano years, it was almost like, I don't oversell this. Like, he bought the team and he saved them from moving. There was no doubt about that.
Mm-hmm.
And some of his beliefs were that I wish I could do all one-year contracts. That was one thing he wasn't really.
They did that with Briere, didn't they?
Well, he didn't want to commit long term.
Yeah.
They were going to be a budget team, a friend. There was going to be an internal cap to some degree. But along the way,
the only thing I ever remember about that time was a mindset of as long as you break even.
Sure, and making the playoffs and having home playoff games was how they were doing that.
Yeah.
And if you spend more, and then you're going to have to make more playoff games. But I forget which series it was. There was a Sabres series that was put out maybe a year or two ago, and it looked back on the Golisano years. It might have been a retrospective on him. Mm-hmm. And during that time, this is going to be one of those ones where, like, if you're old enough to remember, you might not be old enough to remember this part of it because it's maybe business side of it. Not that you don't remember Golisano, but it was almost like the fans and the community and the team and everybody was convincing him that hockey was cool. He was not a hockey guy. He bought a hockey team. He'd be at the games. We'd see him, and he'd get kind of swept up in it. And it was almost like, hey, look at this. Look how fun this is.
Like people wanting him to like it as much as they did?
Maybe.
Yeah.
A little bit of that. That's what was kind of presented in that retrospective. Jerry and Kenmore might remember this. I mean, you've been around forever, Jerry. Do you remember that exact kind of vibe when Golisano was the owner?
Yeah, I do. I remember the whole, make the playoffs and then you make money, and it was very important. But it was very budget and star, balance. It was balanced. But you know what I remember about him? But seeing him in the press box, or his suite during playoff games, one of the points that I called for one main reason, and I've been around a long time, and I've been a lifelong Sabre fan. And I looked it up last night. We are 14th all-time in win percentage in the regular season, with 3 of the teams being ahead of us, Las Vegas, Seattle, and Utah, with small sample sizes. So theoretically, we might be 11th. We're ahead of Pittsburgh. We're ahead of the Islanders. We're ahead of the Rangers. We're ahead of the Maple Leafs. Like, this is a franchise that before this 14 years, all they were missing was a Stanley Cup. They were a great franchise. Ownership issues here and there, but they were a great franchise that produced and made playoffs all the time and advanced in the playoffs all the time. It's amazing they're 14th after these 14 years all time. And save percentage and win percentage. But quickly about the NBA, I don't think it's star power. I think it's market size. I think it's market size and the time of the year that it is. And across the country, there's been really, really good weather, and there's no good reason to watch basketball, unless you have an interest in the market.
See, I don't buy that because I've seen too many examples of small market teams with big stars LeBron, of course, is bigger than the sport, but Cleveland's not a big market, and they became the center of the sport for 4 years with Golden State. Oklahoma City is a small market who's in these finals. When it's Durant and Westbrook there, they're a draw. They're a huge draw. So, I don't know. Sure, in this environment, would there be better ratings if the Knicks were in it? Probably, but I think the star power is still more important by a lot.
A quick check.
Milwaukee,
Cleveland's
small market with Giannis.
Cleveland's the 18th NBA market.
Okay,
and with LeBron, I don't buy market size. Market size is going to have its built-in numbers for sure, but I mean, for the person that's not in the market, stars for me. And again, I have been watching the series. It's been fine. 803-0550, 1-888-550-2550 on the Sabres, the Panthers. The offseason begins now. 9 days from the draft. Just 9 days.
Trade the pick.
Sure.
Although we sit here every year and say trade the pick, and they never trade the pick. But maybe this year they'll actually trade the pick. 9's a good spot to trade the pick. Right? It's not 2.
9's a good spot to trade it with something. 9 on its own.
No, that's what I mean. Like, instead of it being like if it was 15th or 16th or 20th, although that'd be nice if it was late. If it had been really high, I would be confident they would not deal it, but maybe they will, with it being at number 9. Just give me something I care about. Give me a Robertson trade. Give me a Pettersson trade. Give me something that moves the meter. How about something that instead of just being a story around here is a story around the league? Like, did you see what Buffalo did today? It's the last time that happened.
Where they're on the good end of it, too.
Yeah.
Even that. Well, sure, right. Not trading Eichel away.
803-0550, that's our phone number. Jeremy and Joe. Marcel Louis-Jacques on the Dolphins coming up at the top of the hour. Sam Bennett wins the Conn Smythe. 15 goals in the playoffs.
Yep.
It's pretty good.
And he'll be a free agent in 2 weeks.
Pretty good for him.
The report is he will likely stay in Florida. That he is the one that is likely to stay, and Ekblad is likely to leave in free agency.
Did you see what? You want to Let's Get Stupid?
Sure.
Let's go. We got 3 minutes here. This is slightly different than what we just did. We did because in the Let's Get Stupid intro, there's like, hey, McDavid, what would you trade McDavid for McDavid?
Uh-huh.
Yesterday, maybe it's just baseless speculation. Maybe he knows something. Steve Levy said if the Oilers lose, McDavid might look elsewhere.
Steve Levy said that?
Yeah.
Okay. Is he not in the final year of his contract?
McDavid?
Going into it? Double check that. I'm pretty sure he's going into He's going into the final year of his deal. So in 1 year, he'll be a free agent. A year and 2 weeks.
Okay. Would you rather... Again, this is Let's Get Stupid, so, hey, you're not allowed to get mad or think this is dumb, because it is dumb. We know it. But this is a little bit like one of those, how far gone are you as a Sabres? Would you trade the full entire organization for him?
What is that?
Everything.
What does that mean?
Everything.
Everything?
Everything.
Like the arena?
No, you get to keep the arena because you got to play games.
Okay.
But it's McDavid. You can pick ninth, and then you're going to free agency. You can trade every single thing. You want to include the uniforms? I don't care. Go back to the Slugs. You can have no. Would you trade every asset in the organization?
I have to wear blank jerseys like it's a creative team in
tell
NHL.
Edmonton you can have every single NHL, every player that has played an NHL game for us.
Yeah.
In exchange for Connor McDavid with an extension. Would you do it?
Yes, I would. Sure, of course I would.
No, you wouldn't.
Yeah, I would.
Darlene, Tage.
I'll build
Kachchuck,
around McDavid in a couple of years.
Couple years. I don't want to wait a couple years.
I'm getting but that also means the front office and the coaching staff and all of it. Okay, because
only with
some of that might be addition by subtraction.
It's the NHL's first ever McDavid draft. They just take as many pieces as they want, and whatever they don't want, you keep with McDavid. Do you make the playoffs?
Wait a minute, one more time. McDavid's here, and
it's a. This is Let's Get Stupid, folks.
Yeah.
It's the first ever McDavid draft, like an expansion draft. You unprotected players.
Sure.
This would be: we send you Connor McDavid. You give us your roster sheet, and every single spot I want to swap a player, I swap a player. Everyone. Tage goes for whoever they send back. Darlene goes. You're getting
Kulak.
Sure.
Yeah.
Every single spot they want, they take. You get McDavid.
Yes, I want McDavid.
You just want to watch him?
Give me McDavid. Get rid of all of it. The logos. You can even have the arena if you really want it.
Where are you going to play?
I'll play on Lake Erie. Well, that only work maybe like the heart of December or January. I thought, I have a different Let's Get Stupid involving McDavid. So he's 1 year left on his contract. Kawhi Leonard it. What if you knew he's leaving in a year, no matter what? Edmonton knows the same thing. What would you trade for him?
For 1 year of McDavid?
You know it's only going to be 1 year. What would you be willing to give up? Would you give up Tage?
Yep.
Would you give up Darlene?
Do I get to know in the future if these players demand trades in 2 years?
You do not get to know that. You only have the information that you have at present. But I'm letting you know, McDavid's letting you know, I am walking in a year. I'll play for you. I'll play hard for you. We'll try to win a championship, but I'm gone in a year. Darlene for McDavid.
Okay, because you're not getting it done with draft picks.
No, sure. I mean, of course you'd be willing to give up. You can be willing to give up 5 first-round picks for a year of McDavid.
I'll tell you who should do that is every good team.
Kawhi Leonard. Hey, that worked. He won.
He did.
Toronto doesn't regret that. I would not give up Darlene, by the way, for that. I think.
I just had you giving up everything from the logos to the sticks.
Yeah, but I'm getting him forever. Like I'm gonna build around him eventually, right? Aren't I? Wouldn't your question basically be, could you see them winning the Cup with McDavid this year? Isn't that your question? Because that's why the Raptors did it. The Raptors did it because they thought they could win a championship with the one star player.
All right, this has been Let's Get Stupid. 1 year left. Is he going to extend? The cap's going to go way up. It's going to cost a lot of money.
Yes. I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
I think.
Edmonton, formerly players don't want to play their zone. Right? And then they just
that's right.
Including McDavid. Lottery night. His face.
Mm-hmm. You would give up Tage for 1 year?
I don't know. Just want to feel something again.
Can that be the slogan for the 2025-26 season?
Yeah.
Put on like the season ticket, send outs. Just want to feel something again.
803-0550, our phone number. You can give us a ring. 1-888-550-2550. Jeremy and Joe on WGR. Jeremy White here for Atwall Eye Care.
Because really, isn't it hard to see them
winning a Peterka trade?
Getting better right now with a Peterka trade? You could win it, but the Reinhardt trade is maybe an example of, though, like, it can take a while to win it, even if you feel good about your return. The Sabres got Tage Thompson out of the Ryan O'Reilly deal.
It took a while.
It took forever.
Well, that's probably
the Reinhardt trade was 4 years ago now. You feel pretty good about both individuals that to different extents, more about Kulich.
I feel better about Kulich just because his path is like already he's here.
But to different extents, I feel like you feel pretty good about both guys you acquired in the deal. And at the moment, you still 4 years later have like nothing really to show for it. You're expecting to, but not in 4 years.
The difference is in the Reinhardt trade, you heard the comments there from Kevin Adams, where we are, where we're going, that's the start of a rebuild. And they are not doing that right now. So if 31 offers come in for Peterka, you're saying like, hello, yes. If it starts with picks and prospects, see you later.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you have, you answer a call on the other hand, like, oh, well, if I gave you a pick and a prospect, would you give me something from your team?
Mm-hmm.
You could combine Peterka and Byram. I mean, the Sabres trade Steve Ott and Ryan Miller in the same deal to try and add first and second round picks. And that was so, add it together, maybe. Maybe they both go to Vancouver for Pettersson. I don't know, whatever. The offseason's underway.
Imagine what if they had somehow been able to hold it together for just a couple more years? What if they were able to keep those guys together for a couple more years and everything else is the same?
Would they have kind of grown up 1 year, 2 years later?
Yeah, because they're in their supporting cast, did it not show up right after they left? The supporting cast, Eichel and Reinhardt specifically, the supporting cast that they needed around them to win, 2 years later, it was almost in the playoffs without them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have Tuck if you do that, right? But isn't that the only key piece you don't have if you're not making these trades?
Tage, Dahlin, Oposo,
right? Like Dahlin grows into his own, and wondering. This is kind of a wondering what they would have been if Granato was the coach. And maybe they're doing the same style. And, Cousins has a big year, and Tage moves to center, but he's playing second-line center, so he's still a producer. And kind of they all do grow into it under Granato, but the difference is I've got Eichel and Reinhardt still at the top. I was thinking a lot about that last night because I'm thinking like that's a team that you could still be looking at as a perennial playoff team. If you would have got in that first time probably, if everything else is the same and you have those two at the top.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, probably unrealistic. They had already screwed it up because Reinhardt was on a bridge deal. You couldn't keep it together.
Yep.
So, you could have played nice maybe with Eichel and in a different circumstance. Maybe you could have played hardball, but just it doesn't seem tenable. But that was my thought last night that I don't think I've heard said. Like, what would it have looked like if they somehow kept it together a little bit longer? Florida Panthers win the Stanley Cup back-to-back seasons. Sam Reinhart, again, leading them to victory in the game-clinching game. He had the game-winning goal last year, and this year had 4 goals in last night's win, including 2 empty netters at the end. Beautiful goal in the first period to start things off. Sam Bennett, who led the playoffs in goals, ends up winning the Conn Smythe Trophy. He will also be a free agent in a couple of weeks. NBA Finals start back up tomorrow. 3-2 in favor of OKC. They can win the title in Indiana. That's 8:30 on Thursday. In the NFL, Kyron Williams and the Rams getting closer to a contract extension. Also, Trey Hendrickson and the Bengals have fired back up contract talks in recent days, according to Ian Rappaport. Or Jeremy Fowler, excuse me. Those are your Paddock Chevrolet sports headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership.
It was a weird situation, to be honest with you, because when the hit happened, I didn't even know what happened. Like, I didn't see him. I didn't know what was going on. I just, kind of blacked out, came to, and then was kind of helped off the ice. Watching it on replay, I thought it was a little dirty. I would have liked someone to step in for sure. I was a little shocked by that. Our team is great guys, and they all said sorry and should have done something. Even if we didn't see it or knew what happened, we should have stepped in and at least done something, which I get it. The game happens fast. Maybe you didn't know what to do in the situation or how to react. I don't know, because I wasn't in that situation, right? I was the one laying on the ice. But Lindy came in and just said that can't happen again. And if you see someone laying on the ice or someone gets hit like that, you better step in and do something.
Tage Thompson on a podcast with Andy Strickland, remembering a point in the season where he was knocked to the ice and the Sabres did not respond. Memories. Jeremy and Joe, good morning. 803-0550, 1-888-550-2550. Lamar Jackson, saw some Lamar Jackson stuff. He's talking about the loss to the Bills in the AFC divisional round. Said he spoke for the first time since that game. He spoke after the game. But as they went back to mandatory minicamp and all that, he basically defended Mark Andrews for the drop. He's done so much for us. Mark is still Mark, no doubt. He's accomplished so much for us. I feel like just let things happen sometimes. We wish we would have won the game. I wish I didn't throw that interception. I wish I didn't fumble. I wish the mishap didn't happen, but it happened. It's a lesson learned. Next time we'll do something better. And he kind of talked about, Lamar did, that this is they've got vengeance on their mind. And Bills fans, you know that kind of year, right? Like sometimes there's a year where a thing happens, whether it's a game, whether it's a moment, whether it's 13 seconds, where the next year is about proving that what happened shouldn't have happened. We've had a couple seasons for the Bills like that. Like, that shouldn't have happened. This year, it's vengeance. And the Bills have not quite been able to execute that vengeance, really. They can in the regular season. They don't in the playoffs. And here's Lamar, like, vengeance on our mind. And would anybody be stunned if you found out that you could look in the future and see Baltimore goes to the Super Bowl? Like, Bills, Ravens, Chiefs, throw another team in there. I think you probably could throw one or two. But Baltimore's, they're going to have the talent for it. The roster looks good. He's campaigning for Jair Alexander.
Yep.
To join them. And he's got vengeance on his mind.
And for them, what would that it shouldn't have happened at the end last year? Because for the Bills, it was easy. 13 seconds, like that specific situation. Just beating the Bills? Or himself turning the ball over? Andrews dropping the ball? Right? Like, they did have it. They were right there ready to tie the game. I guess looking at their story going into this season, it would be proving what I think was true of them in the regular season, which is that up until that day, they were the best team in the AFC. A lot of the numbers pointed to, and Jackson's kind of leading that, Henry too. I mean, it was some numbers that pointed that was like one of the best rushing attacks, actually the best rushing attack we'd ever seen in the league. That they were the best team leading up to that night, and the Bills got them to make a couple mistakes. Jackson put the ball on the ground. Andrews drops a ball. And they probably feel like they shouldn't have lost that football game. That's really what it is. Is they feel the same. This is the 13 seconds game. You feel like you shouldn't have lost that game. It felt dumb that you lost that
tougher
game.
Case than 13 seconds. 13 seconds was
it definitely was
a colossal collapse, whereas Baltimore was down, 21-10 at halftime?
Yep.
But in the second half, they were right there.
Yep, and you could target just Andrews for that, but because it's the fumble and then it's the drop and the 2-point conversion. But I would, when I'm thinking of them in vengeance, like that would be it. It's proving that we were the best team during the year for a lot of the year, and we didn't even make the AFC Championship game. So how could you stand on a leg on that? So that would be it for the Ravens. I mean, to me, they are. Right now, I would consider them the best team narrowly in the conference above the Bills.
Just roster-wise?
Yeah. Yeah, the whole thing, the whole picture, because I think the Bills are probably a little deeper, but Baltimore's pretty deep, and I think their star players around their superstar quarterback, like they just have more of them, right? It's why Allen won the MVP last year instead of Lamar. He has more stars. So, with that being said, it's pretty close for me. They're right now the co-favorites to win the AFC over Kansas City. So I don't think it's that different, but I would right now consider them the best team in the conference.
Pete Prisco and CBS, they did their top 100 players of 2025. You see the full list?
Did not. Top how many?
Top 100
Top
players.
100?
This is not the same as the NFL top 100 because that is voted on by just the players.
Yeah.
But CBS, Pete Prisco, just his top 100 players. And I'm looking for the full list because here we go. Yeah, okay. Top. Where's Allen? There's your first guy.
Allen is number 4. Okay.
Who's ahead of Allen?
Lamar Jackson?
No.
Best players in the league right now. I got to get Tyreek Hill was in my mind because he had been this answer in the NFL top 100 list, but obviously he had a down year, so it's not him. Justin Jefferson?
Not ahead of Allen. Jefferson is 5th. Pete Prisco ranks him the 5th best player of 2025.
Okay, how this shouldn't be that hard, right?
4 players above Allen.
4 players above Allen. Is Chris Jones above him?
He's not. This is fun trying to dig into like
Myles Garrett?
Yes, number 2.
Okay. Myles Garrett and Saquon?
Yes, number 3.
Okay. But I don't have 1 and 2. Is Mahomes above him?
Mahomes number 1.
Give me a break.
Mahomes, Garrett,
give me a
Barkley,
freaking
Allen.
Break. Who's number 2?
Garrett.
Garrett? Who did I miss?
You got it.
That was because Allen was 4.
You're right. I'm sorry. 3 guys above him.
I see. Okay.
How many Bills make the top 100?
2. Allen and Dawkins.
There's one more. There are 3.
One more.
We'll see if this makes the NFL top 100.
Okay.
It said CBS Pete Prisco, his top 100. There are 3 Bills.
I'm going to give Pete Prisco enough respect to think that he knows how good Christian Benford is.
Christian Benford is number 100.
Oh, it just makes it.
Allen 4.
Okay.
Dawkins 97.
Man.
Benford 100.
How quick can you find where the Baltimore guys are on there?
You want me to do that?
Henry's going to be way higher than those 2, right? Henry's going to be in the top 20.
Baltimore. He has Lamar 6, Henry 14, Kyle Hamilton 36, Tyler Linderbaum 53, Marlon Humphrey 68, Roquan Smith 87.
It's just one guy's opinion, but that's part of why I would right now pick them as the best team in the AFC.
Yeah.
That's a lot of studs. Studs, not just good players, spots that aren't holes. Those guys are some of the best at what they do in the league. And I would agree with Dawkins and Benford for that. But a lot of these other guys for the Bills, Ed Oliver and Bernard and Rapp, to different degrees, these guys are pretty good, but they're not the best in the sport.
I'm counting the Chiefs.
The Chiefs are going to have Mahomes, Chris Jones,
Creed Humphrey.
He's not putting Travis Kelce in here anymore,
Travis
right?
Kelce 93rd, Creed Humphrey, Trent McDuffie, Joe Tooney, Trey Smith.
That's a lot of guys too.
It's always one thing that I find interesting because as a Bills fan, you don't want to pick between people here, but to have Allen so high and not anybody really close,
mm-hmm.
Do
people kind of like that though?
I don't think
the idea that it's
no.
all
no,
nobody bigger than the team type of something. Everybody eats.
Is Creed Humphrey bigger than the Chiefs?
No, he's not.
Right? No, I don't think Bills fans like that. I think Bills fans know that their quarterback is amazing, and having a good team with good depth is great. And on these lists, whether the Bills aren't getting enough credit, maybe they drafted a couple guys in this year's draft that are on next year's top 100, or maybe
Spencer Brown,
maybe
gets on that list
Michael
next year.
Hoyt, right? Maybe Spencer Brown, win more games. It's hard to win more games than they do. They win a lot of games and still don't get a lot of love in lists like this, just because everybody is of the belief that Josh Allen's doing it all, which is, it's not wrong. It's not true. Well, whatever. Anyway, Pete Prisco, his top 100.
That's a way of saying he gets more credit for the Bills' success than some of these other guys are, right?
Sure.
Than Jackson, for instance.
Yeah.
And that's him winning MVP.
That's MVP.
Is Josh is getting more credit for lifting up the Bills than maybe not more than Burrow, because Burrow probably gets that because the Bengals roster stinks.
No, more than Burrow, because Burrow's always going to have Chase and Higgins with him.
More than Mahomes? Does Allen get more credit for the Bills than Mahomes gets for the Chiefs?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. Mahomes gets Andy Reid.
Right.
People bring it up a lot. Andy Reid this, Andy Reid that. And he's got a Hall of Fame tight end. Yeah. I think Allen does get more credit for the Bills.
So really then, would you say he gets the most credit then of anybody?
That's also a tough thing to say, because here's Pete Prisco ranking Patrick Mahomes as the number 1 player in the NFL.
Right.
When anybody watching the NFL will be like, that guy was not the best quarterback last year.
No, or the year before.
No. He's just giving it to him by default. Okay.
He's giving it... You're giving it to him because you feel like you have to give it to him.
And if you want to make the case, which I saw Nick Wright make this case yesterday, shocker, Nick Wright defending the Chiefs, that whenever they meet in the playoffs, Mahomes wins. That doesn't mean he's the best player. Sam Bennett is not the best player in the NHL because he beats Connor McDavid in the playoffs. That's not what we do here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mahomes has not been the best quarterback for 2 years, but he still gets that spot by default. You know what will be really interesting? This is where the NFL Top 100 will be potentially really interesting this year. Will the players knock Mahomes? Because that list, it gets movement.
Yeah,
it's up and down. I mean, Tyreek Hill was the number 1 player one year. Lamar has been above Mahomes before.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what will happen with the quarterbacks this year in the NFL Top 100? Because Allen and Jackson, would you want to predict the NFL players, put them both above Mahomes? I think I might want to predict it.
Last year, Jackson was above him.
Right.
And Allen was 12th, where Mahomes was 4th. You think he'll jump him?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. Marcel Louis-Jacques joins us. Of course, you remember him, his time covering the Bills. He covers the Dolphins. Now we'll check in on Miami and see, what the plan is for them this year. There's talk of a changed culture with not really many big changes that would do that kind of thing. So he'll join us next here on WGR.
Imagine what if they had somehow been able to hold it together for just a couple more years? What if they were able to keep those guys together for a couple more years and everything else is the same?
Would they have kind of grown up 1 year, 2 years later?
Yeah, because they're in their supporting cast, did it not show up right after they left? The supporting cast, Eichel and Reinhardt specifically, the supporting cast that they needed around them to win, 2 years later, it was almost in the playoffs without them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have Tuck if you do that, right? But isn't that the only key piece you don't have if you're not making these trades?
Tage, Dahlin, Oposo.
Right, like Dahlin grows into his own and wondering, this is kind of a wondering what they would have been if Granato was the coach. And maybe they're doing the same style. And, okay, Cousins has a big year, and Tage moves to center, but he's playing second-line center, so he's still a producer. And kind of they all do grow into it under Granato, but the difference is I've got Eichel and Reinhardt still at the top. I was thinking a lot about that last night because I'm thinking that's a team that you could still be looking at as a perennial playoff team. If you would have got in that first time, probably, if everything else is the same and you have those two at the top.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, probably unrealistic. They had already screwed it up because Reinhardt was on a bridge deal. You couldn't keep it together.
Yep.
So, you could have played nice maybe with Eichel and in a different circumstance. Maybe you could have played hardball, but just, it doesn't seem tenable, but that was my thought last night that I don't think I've heard said. What would it have looked like if they somehow kept it together a little bit longer?
Then the roster building stat I wanted to get to. This was from Kevin Papetti, who is an NHL writer and analyst for The Athletic and covers the Leafs, because the Leafs might be a little sensitive to this as well. That Florida's fourth line and third pair, what they pay their fourth line and their third pair, is about $4.3 million total.
Mm-hmm.
The Sabres pay that same group of jobs about $9 million.
Double.
So
More than double.
About 9.
Mm-hmm.
And the stat for you on a real quick, rough math on that is, so Florida gets $5 million surplus there kind of on their fourth line, and they spend $20 million more on the cap.
Yeah.
So the Panthers are spending $25 million more on their top 6, their top 4, and in goal than the Sabres are. $25 million in 1 year. So
brutal.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that's not even tax adjusted. That's Florida's just playing with a stacked deck, different deck, and they don't spend too much on the bottom of the roster.
No.
They don't obsess on the bottom of the roster. It's your young guys, your prospects. You get guys in here that can play that role, and you should be good to go. And the Sabres last year, that was the offseason was finding those guys.
Yeah, I was going to say, for the Sabres, it's both. It's a combination of they wanted to spend that on the fourth line forwards, right? Like, they wanted to spend that. They didn't want to spend that maybe on the defenseman, but that's what happens when you miss on a couple of contracts, and then the guys end up getting buried on the depth chart. You missed on Samuelsson, and you missed on Clifton. So there's $7 million of third-pair defensemen that were they hoping when they signed them 2 years ago that was going to be their Dahlin and Power partners?
Yeah.
And Florida doesn't really have misses like that. Like, when they pay guys, they end up usually performing pretty well. Your guy, Jeremy Allen White, is in a new movie coming up.
I got to tell you a story.
About Jeremy Allen White?
Kinda.
Okay.
So, last week, just hanging out, whatever, I get a notification on my phone. It's from Cameo. I am on Cameo. You know, Cameo
the video messages.
Yeah, like if you want to go, this is not me plugging, this is me telling the story, but if you want me to, like, say happy birthday to someone, I'll do that. Or like read the order of your fantasy draft or make fun of your friends. Like I've done maybe a total of 5 of them.
Okay.
It's fine. It's just there. If you want to do it, great. We'll have a good time. Anyway, I get a Cameo request. It's like, hey, my sister's birthday's coming up, and she would really love it if you blah, 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 all these things. And I'm like, I don't even know. What are you talking about? Is this a bot? Is this what is happening? Spam? Can I get spammed on a Cameo request? And I read a little further. I'm like, oh, you know what? Yep. This is the first time this has happened. He thinks I'm Jeremy Allen White.
What?
To which I didn't even respond. I didn't write back. I laughed at it for a moment. Hold on. And then within 5 hours, they canceled the request. I'm
okay.
Like, okay, good.
They realized. Because I think you got to let them know at some point.
Sure.
Right.
At the same time, like, I'm sorry, you think the guy from the Bear is asking for $20?
Yeah, that should lead
$20
to astray.
I mean, I'll do it for less. I don't care.
Great deal.
I'll do it to make your day. But like, it's the first time that's happened where it's like, oh, look at this, the guy from the Bear's $20 on Cameo,
and your picture is like on the profile or whatever.
Yes. Maybe I could. Here's my ticket to millions. I will do a recording for your fantasy football league or your friends or whatever as a joke because you thought, oh, I got you Jeremy White, I got your buddy, and then it's not that guy, it's me.
Yeah,
there's the joke. We'll lean fully into it.
You're like the fake Andy Reid for Jeremy Allen White, basically.
Despite looking nothing like him.
No,
just having the same first and last name.
No, you'd have to shave. I think to start the process of looking like him.
Our middles are close too.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, the reason I bring him up is he's playing Bruce Springsteen in a new Springsteen biopic. And I don't think I've ever seen a good music biopic. Any of them.
Don't people say the Dylan one was good?
I haven't. That's
Timothée Chalamet.
That's the one I haven't seen yet, but I've heard that one's good.
The Bob Dylan one rocked.
Okay. All right. I'll give that one a shot before I go all in.
It was really good.
The Elvis one I didn't like, and the Queen one.
The Elvis one wasn't any good.
I don't know. Typically, I see. Okay, we're doing another one of these.
I think this will probably be good. Jeremy Allen White is awesome.
He is awesome. Yeah.
You know, Bruce Springsteen also is awesome. So
now I'm looking at all the music biopics and deciding if any of them are good.
The Whitney Houston one was okay.
Didn't see it.
It was fine.
I remember watching the Selena one in like grade school.
Okay.
All the time. Like I think I watched it every year in Spanish because I took Spanish every year, and it was like the same.
I mean, the best
class.
one I've got is straight out of Compton. That was good.
That is very good.
That was good.
That was good. That's right. I hadn't thought of that one. Yeah,
I liked Bohemian Rhapsody. I thought it was fine.
Is 8 Mile a biopic?
No. It might as well be, but no, right?
It's not?
No. Walk the Line?
Because if 8 Mile qualifies, then that's one that I liked. Walk the Line is, I think.
Rolling Stone ranked the top 30 biopics.
Okay. What's
And
number one?
Number one is I'm Not There, the 2007 biopic on Bob Dylan.
Okay.
Okay, there you go. Number two is Bird. I don't know who that's about. Is that
don't know.
Jazz legend Charlie Parker?
Okay.
Elvis. All right. We'll get a break in. Marcel Louis-Jacques joins us on the other side on the Dolphins. We'll see how things are going in the culture-changing Miami scene as a number of players have been talking about what's different for the Dolphins this year. Will they get a different fate in the AFC East? Stay tuned. It's coming up next year on WGR.
Well, because really, it's hard to. Isn't it hard to see them
winning a Paterka trade?
Getting better right now with a Paterka trade? You could win it, but the Reinhardt trade is maybe an example of though, like it can take a while to win it, even if you feel good about your return. The Sabres got Tage Thompson out of the Ryan O'Reilly deal.
It took a while.
It took forever.
Well, that's probably
the Reinhardt trade was 4 years ago now. You feel pretty good about both individuals that to different extents, more about Kulik.
I feel better about Kulik just because his path is like already, he's here.
But to different extents, I feel like you feel pretty good about both guys you acquired in the deal. And at the moment, you still 4 years later have like nothing really to show for it. You're expecting to, but not in 4 years.
The difference is in the Reinhardt trade, you heard the comments there from Kevin Adams, where we are, where we're going, that's the start of a rebuild. And they are not doing that right now. So if 31 offers come in for Paterka, you're saying like, hello, yes. If it starts with picks and prospects, see you later.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you have, you answer a call on the other hand, like, oh, well, if I gave you a pick and a prospect, would you give me something from your team?
Mm-hmm.
You could combine Paterka and Byram. I mean, the Sabres trade Steve Ott and Ryan Miller in the same deal to try and add first and second round picks. And that was so, add it together, maybe. Maybe they both go to Vancouver for Pedersen. I don't know, whatever. The offseason's underway.
Because this is my opinion. I have not heard this from any player, anybody else. I just have this feeling if this happens again, one more year, I think they're all gone. I think Darlene will want to go. I don't think Darlene can take one more year of this. It just seemed like he was at his fill last year, but he has told us that he wants to fix this with the Sabres. He wants to stay. I believe him. But if this happens another year, I just think that's it. I think they'll be lining up to get out of here.
Paul Hamilton.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, Paul Hamilton. Everyone's got a breaking point, and you would think. Thanks, Paul.
Take care, guys.
Paul's appearance brought to you by Raylax. Honda Raylax. We got this NHL draft in 11 days. Free agency once we get to July. So the offseason approaches, and you want to say like it's a big one, of course.
I mean, the way Paul just set it up, it is like the biggest one.
Yeah, it's a big one.
The Florida Panthers are Stanley Cup champs for the second year in a row, beating the Oilers 5-1 last night. Scored the fourth most goals in a playoffs ever in the NHL. Sam Reinhardt scored 4 last night, 2 empty netters at the end. He tied Wayne Gretzky and also Jean Beliveau and Mike Bossy for the most goals in a Stanley Cup final. Sam Bennett wins the Conn Smythe with the most goals in the playoffs. NBA Finals get fired back up tomorrow night, 8:30 for the Pacers and the Thunder in Indiana. That'll be tomorrow night. OKC can win the title with a win. In the NFL, Kyron Williams and the Rams getting closer to a contract extension that, according to their head coach, Sean McVay. Also, looking around the league a little bit, we'll talk about the Dolphins with Marcel Louis-Jacques coming up next. Jonnu Smith's agent, Drew Rosenhaus, says that Smith's situation is still very fluid after Dolphins minicamp. There have been trade talks, reports about him. We'll talk more about it coming up next and other Dolphin stuff. 11-day power play fires up this morning, and the opening ceremony is today at 6 o'clock at Harbor Center. You can still donate. Go to 11daypowerplay.com, hit the donate button. You can search Team WGR. We'll be playing next week. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership.
Doing everything I can to stay available for the guys. Like I said before, in the past, nothing changes with that. Knowing when is the time to give up on a play. I would say the longevity for me to be on the field with my guys is more important than whatever that one play is. You know, you have more quarters than there would be within just that one play that I'm trying to, show the guys that, I'm competitive and whatnot. And I know they know that, but it's just a nature thing, it just comes natural to me to compete in that sense. And that's just the thing I fight with every time.
Tua Tagovailoa there from earlier this offseason on his availability and timeline with the Dolphins. Joining us on the Wester Hotline is our buddy Marcel Louis-Jacques. Marcel, good morning. Jeremy and Joe, ready to talk some Dolphins with you. How are things?
Good morning, man. I'll always appreciate a chance to talk some ball in this time of year. A lot of people enjoy it. This is like the vacation period, but this is just anxiety for me, man. I'm ready to start the season.
How about the celebrations down there in South Florida? Is Panther fever going crazy back-to-back?
It depends where you are, right, Marcel, for that?
Yeah, I think it definitely depends where you are. We stayed inside. Might actually hit up the parade. I think I was out of town during last year's, and can't take these for granted. I've never been to a championship parade, so I think it'd be kind of cool. But it's peaceful for now. I think there's this conception that South Florida doesn't care about hockey, and I don't know that I would go that far. I think South Florida is proud of the Panthers, but it certainly is different than if like the Heat win the championship or if the Dolphins win a championship. But it doesn't mean that people don't care, but they definitely would care more about the other teams.
Yeah. How much of that is also like Broward County, right, in Fort Lauderdale? Like, is it? Can you notice a big difference if like you're in Fort Lauderdale, how many Panther fans there are, or how much they care versus if you're actually like in the heart of Miami?
Yeah, 100%. So like when they lost to Vegas 2 years ago, I think I was still living in downtown Miami, and I didn't see, hardly any mention of them, of the Panthers, of the Stanley Cup, of anything. But last year when I was in Fort Lauderdale, Las Olas Boulevard had banners and lights and stringers, and you were aware that it was going on.
They brought the cup to Elbow Room too, right?
Yeah, but the practice facility is also in Fort Lauderdale, like in the heart of Fort Lauderdale. The stadium is in the cut of Broward County, man. Like it goes stadium, Everglades, like bang bang. Like there's no separation. You can see the swamp from the stadium. So they put it pretty far away from Miami proper. But yeah, Broward County cares 100%.
Yeah. Marcel, of course, covering the Miami Dolphins down there. Marcel, what kind of year are we in for Miami? It feels like Bills fans look at this team the same every year. The fates have kind of been the same for the last few seasons. But this one strikes me as odd. Talk of culture changes, and I guess the first question is, like, have there been the kind of changes that usually lead to a team talking about culture changes?
Well, we haven't necessarily seen it, and that's not to say that they haven't happened. You know, what did Samuel say? The absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence, right? We just haven't been in the locker room yet. But all the guys, they talk about it almost incessantly. Coaches talk about it incessantly. But we haven't gotten specifics. You know what I'm saying? Like, we keep hearing culture change. Yeah, we're changing. Yeah, we're doing this. But, like, I don't really know what yet because we haven't had that, like, one-on-one time, that inside time in that locker room in the facility. But they swear that there have been, you know, as Mike said, some certain non-negotiables that have been agreed upon. You know, Tua came out and said basically, you know, hey, we talked and we said, aren't you guys tired of the same thing happening every year? Then, yeah, let's do something different. You know, one little snippet of a change that we've heard is that they've been spending a lot more time together outside the facility, which is something that we were told they were doing last year. And Bradley Chubb told us straight up, yeah, we were lying last year. Like, we tried to, but we weren't really about it like we have been this year. And you know, good for them if the culture is changing, if they are spending more time together, if da-da-da-da, good for them. That's fine. But my first question is always going to be, this is year 4 of the program, man. Like, why are all these things happening now? Why are these certain non-negotiables happening now in year 4 instead of in year 1, year 2? But whatever, better late than never, right? Best way to get out of a hole is stop digging.
Right. And with the same coach, like, I don't know how much of it is, well, let's hear this in the season, right? Like, easier to do it maybe in the spring, shift the culture in this way, or do you feel like it should be taken seriously? And the coach part of it too, like that's always the first thought I have is kind of what you just said is, well, you usually hear stuff like that after you make a coaching change or something significant, and they've made some player changes that maybe could be this, but I don't know. I wonder if I should take it seriously with a lot of the same key pieces.
Yeah, you know, there are a lot of the same key pieces. Notable absences, you know, Kendall Fuller is gone, but he hadn't been there long enough to make an impact one way or another. That wasn't enough of an impact player too. Javon Holland is a pretty notable departure after this past year. Still, I don't know if he is a driving force behind the culture or not. I don't know if I would call him that. They are actively trying to trade Jalen Ramsey, but, like, when you think of the problem children, you know, for lack of a better term, the problem child in the room, you might be looking at a certain wide receiver on the other side of the ball who took himself out of the game in Week 18 last year. But he's not going anywhere. As a matter of fact, we spoke to him, and he said, you know, he doesn't even expect to be a captain again this year. Like, he expects to have to earn that back. So, like, I think in their mind, they see a humbled Tyreek Hill, but Jalen Ramsey has to go. And that is something that's still actively occurring. I don't think it's the biggest distraction in the world there. It's not like he's still around the facility, you know, being a malcontent. Like, by all accounts, he's still in L.A., training and waiting for a trade. But you do kind of approach it with some skepticism when you say, like, wow, like, how many people are actually gone? But, you know, the thing about Jalen Ramsey is he's not like a vocal presence, at least when we are in the locker room. You know, like, his locker, it's the first one by the door. You know, he can slip in, slip out at will. He wasn't frequently, kind of like Jordan Poyer, he wasn't really seen with other guys in the locker room. He usually kept to himself in that locker room, at least when media was in there for that 40, 45 minutes. But because he's Jalen Ramsey, it's like a magnetic personality, right? Like, when he is fired up about something, like, you're going to be fired up about something. When he is upset and moody or, you know, not showing up on time, like, it just sets the wrong example. It sends the wrong message, and it kind of trickles down by osmosis. So I think at least that's how the Dolphins feel. If with him gone, I think they do see that as a major personnel change.
How ugly did it get with Hill at the end of last year? With all this being said, like, did you think they were maybe heading for a divorce because of taking himself out of the game, and maybe there was more going on otherwise?
Actually, I did, because like, there have been, I don't want to say like it had been brewing, all year. It's not like he's just like a horrible person throughout the year. He was late to meetings for sure, but there were some moments in that locker room post game where it felt like it's not like he's out here blowing up and yelling at people and screaming at people, but it was odd behavior, and I don't want to go super detailed into it, unfortunately, because I don't want to get a call right after I get off this radio station. But there were some moments where it was I didn't know how really bought in he was. There were some, and then of course the Jets game was the Jets game. But if obviously he's frustrated, he had never missed the playoffs before. He's dealing with what should have been a season-ending wrist injury all year, so his production was dropped, and that's more of an explanation than an excuse. I think the rule of thumb is, if you, no matter how hurt you are, if you make decision to go out and play, you better play. You have to be able to play. You have to be able to produce at the level that you are expected to produce, injury or not. And the fact of the matter is, injury or not, he did not produce the way he's paid to produce. So, it was, and not to mention, and then there's the off the field stuff that just seemingly piles on. I think, it's been a couple months since he has been in trouble outside the football field, but, the distraction still remains with this, Noah Lyles stuff, which I think pretty visibly Mike McDaniel was annoyed by. It's one of those things where I think the team would rather him just dude, please just play football. It's not like Gruden calling Antonio Brown level of please just play football, but I do think there's a sense of hey man, look, 30 M's a year, we really just need you to hoop, please.
Yeah, Marcel, that in a moment, but on the Noah Lyles thing, so that's the challenge with the sprinter, the American sprinter.
And he was going to race him.
Tyreek just ran 100 and put up a time that was half a second slower than Lyles, and is standing on that, let's do it. He's afraid of me. The clock doesn't.
Well, didn't Lyles pull
pulled out
it?
for personal reasons, but the point is, you're not faster than him. We have clocks. That's I don't get it.
That's the beautiful thing about track, right? It doesn't matter the stage, the school, the level. Fastest is fast, man. I don't care if you're running for Northwest Missouri Tech or you're running for Oregon. Your time is your time. The clock isn't slower or faster depending on the level you're at. So that's what I've always appreciated about that sport is it doesn't matter where you are, but. I think, Tyreek maybe sees that as okay, well, I could be close. If I train, then I could do this. However, Mike McDaniel has come out and said, I really don't care as long as he's not specifically training for this race.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but he basically said, if you want to go out there and run and you think that you're just as fast as him, I don't really care. I really don't care. But if you are out here spending time training to run this race, and that is actively taking away from your time training to catch a football, then yeah, that's an issue. And that's the thing that this is another one of those culture change aspects that I thought was honestly directly pointed at Tyreek Hill was McDaniel, and again, I'm going to paraphrase here, but said we need to keep football the main thing here. That is the biggest change. That's one of the biggest changes. Football needs to be number one. So, anything that you're doing that makes you, let's say, late to a meeting, that makes you skip a workout at home or do da-da-da, that is for the birds now. You have to stop that. And so, I thought that was, again, directly pointed at the guy who's challenging arguably the fastest man in the world, might be the fastest man in the world, to a race. It's hey, man, what does this have to do with the Miami Dolphins playing football? That's where, a little bit of the skepticism creeps in when I hear that, and then I hear we're changing the culture. But then, the guy who, ended the season on such a controversial note is still doing things, indicative of his past behavior. How much is the culture changing? But if the race isn't happening, then fine. But that's just one thing. Again, not to keep harping on Tyreek Hill, but I think that's one thing for the Dolphins that you kind of hope to see. No more challenging Olympic champion. No more hopping on, ride-alongs with streamers and calling out Bills fans and calling out the other teams. Like, no more trolling quarterback lists without naming the quarterback that plays on your team. No more video games. Like, no more of this other stuff. This other stuff. Like, we're trying to win, not build the brand.
And
so, that's what I think the team is looking for.
I had a stat for Joe maybe 2 weeks ago that kind of floored me about the Dolphins. Warren Sharp put it out about their explosive plays and 25-plus yard plays, that they were last in the league in that department. Like, this gets back to, at one point, Miami was a track team, but in a positive sense, where everybody's fast and everybody's so hard to defend, and that magic formula, or whatever, it went away. So how much of it is about, culture change, and how much of it is about Mike McDaniel having to rediscover what he had at one point that seemed to dry up last year?
Yeah, well, for 6 games they're playing with the Yeehaw crew at quarterback. So the explosive plays just don't happen when Tua's not at quarterback. Like, point blank period. It's not happening with Tyler Huntley. It's not happening with Skylar Thompson. Both of which, we're putting in an impossible situation to run an offense that was not designed for them. In Thompson's case, he should have played better. He's been an offense for 3 years. But in Huntley's case, that is just, I don't envy that at all. But even with Tua back, they kind of, I'd be interested. I'd have to go back and look at the plays. I know I wrote about it in season, but their plays per drive and average time of possession per drive were among the highest in the NFL, because they switched from, they didn't want to just have the home run plays. They didn't want to rely on that. They wanted to be able to sustain drives, and that is where their offensive focus kind of shifted to. And that's why you saw a guy like, Jonnu Smith turn in a career season, or Devon Achane catching passes. I think he led all, he led all NFL running backs in catches last year. So it was like an offensive mentality shift. I don't know that they want to get back to, the home run hitting Dolphins again. It's difficult because obviously that worked. The offense was very good. The team was good. They made the playoffs. But I think that the sustaining drives with the threat of the over-the-top play is still going to be the offensive focus. Getting the run game and the physicality, increasing your physicality at the line of scrimmage is still going to be the focus. I don't think that you're just automatically going to see them, run Tyreek go deep, 20 times a game and like before, and just kind of hope for the best. I will say I always thought it was interesting. Nobody talks about it, because in that interview, you remember that podcast that Tua did with Dan Le Batard last summer?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When he discussed Brian Flores, that was the focus for everybody. Everybody wanted to talk about that. Nobody talks about the little nugget he sprinkled in there about how in 2023 they force-fed Tyreek because they wanted him to get 2,000 yards. They forced it. It was an internal goal to get Tyreek to 2,000. Mm-hmm. And they got away from that last year. So I don't see them reverting to that, especially after paying Waddle what they're paying him, to be a expensive decoy for Tyreek. No, that's not gonna happen. So I think they're looking for balance. They're looking for sustained drives. They're looking for physicality in the run games. We might not see the 70 explosive plays a year anymore. It might just not happen. That's not what their goal is.
Well, that's where I wanted to get this in before we run out of time on Waddle, because Waddle had such a down year for his standard. The targets weren't there, and I know he's dealt with injuries. But if here we are talking about sustained drives and Jonnu Smith leading the team in catches and Achane leading running backs, what is Waddle's place on this team even after Hill is gone? Because when I think of him, I'm usually thinking of those, downfield. I've got a stat sheet open. He led the league in yards per reception 3 years ago. So what is his role, I guess, going forward then, if that's how they want to play offense?
I mean, he's proved he can be a number one receiver. He was as a rookie, and even though he was grossly misused as just a slot guy and a kind of like a grandized version of how the Bills used Cole Beasley in 2020 when they couldn't really run the ball, so they used Cole to get those 3-4 yard gains at a time. That was Jaylen Waddle as a rookie. I think his skill set goes beyond that. I think he can be a number one receiver. It's just the fact that last season, again, you hate to say the same excuse, but the quarterback play just was not up to par. The chemistry between Waddle and those quarterbacks was not up to par. That passing game as a whole was not up to par, and he suffered because of it. By all accounts, and from what we've seen in the 5 practices we've been at this spring, he's been electric. He's been able to get open at will. He's catching things, intermediate, short, deep, like all over. He is doing it against questionable secondary at this point, an unproven secondary at this point. But I would expect a bounce back year from Jaylen Waddle. They're paying him like a low end number 1, high number 2. So I think the Dolphins believe the same thing.
Marcel Louis-Jacques on the Western Hotline. Marcel, thanks for the time. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me.
All right. Enjoy the rest of the downtime ahead of training camp. Training camp schedule soon?
Soon. Also,
maybe today?
And enjoy. The Panthers are already on the strip there.
Yeah,
they're at Elbow Room right now pouring beer out of the cup over the balcony.
It sounds like fun.
Yeah. Getting used to seeing trophies in the beach like that. Warm weather. Brady throwing the Super Bowl over a boat. That happened.
Yeah. So when we get back, I asked this question, just kind of threw it out there, and ESPN Analytics has an answer. So most of us would all agree, the top 3 teams to win the AFC, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bills, Chiefs, Ravens?
Yes.
Okay. Who ESPN Analytics has number 4. It was just on the screen a moment ago, talking about who's going to win the AFC.
Okay.
Who has the 4th best chance? Who is the next team outside of that big 3? It is not Cincinnati. Not that you weren't thinking of Cincinnati. I just want to say it's not Cincinnati.
That would have been my first guess.
Okay. Well, who is it? Next.
Jeremy Allen White is in a new movie coming up.
I got to tell you a story.
About Jeremy Allen White?
Kinda.
Okay.
So last week, just hanging out, whatever, I get a notification on my phone. It's from Cameo. I am on Cameo. You know, Cameo
the video messages.
Yeah, like if you want to go, this is not me plugging, this is me telling the story, but if you want me to like say happy birthday to someone, I'll do that. Or like read the order of your fantasy draft or make fun of your friends. Like I've done maybe a total of 5 of them.
Okay.
It's fine. It's just there. If you want to do it, great. We'll have a good time. Anyway, I get a Cameo request. It's like, hey, my sister's birthday's coming up, and she would really love it if you blah, 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 all these things. And I'm like, I don't even know. What are you talking about? Is this a bot? Is this what is happening? Spam? Can I get spammed on a Cameo request? And I read a little further. I'm like, oh, you know what? Yep. This is the first time this has happened. He thinks I'm Jeremy Allen White.
What?
To which I didn't even respond. I didn't write back. I laughed at it for a moment. Hold on. And then within 5 hours, they canceled the request.
Okay.
Okay, good.
They realized. Because I think you got to let them know at some point.
Sure.
Right.
At the same time, like, I'm sorry, you think the guy from the Bear is asking for $20?
Yeah, that should lead
$20 to
astray.
I mean, I'll do it for less. I don't care. I'll do it to make your day. But like, it's the first time that's happened where it's like, oh, look at this, the guy from the Bear's $20 on Cameo,
and your picture is like on the profile or whatever.
Yes. Maybe I could. Here's my ticket to millions. I will do a recording for your fantasy football league or your friends or whatever as a joke because you thought, oh, I got you Jeremy White, I got your buddy, and then it's not that guy, it's me.
Yeah.
There's the joke. We'll lean fully into it.
You're like the fake Andy Reid for Jeremy Allen White, basically.
Despite looking nothing like him.
No.
Just having the same first and last name.
No, you'd have to shave, I think, to start the process of looking like him. I have a different Let's Get Stupid involving McDavid. So he's 1 year left on his contract.
Mm-hmm.
Kawhi Leonard it. What if you knew he's leaving in a year, no matter what? Edmonton knows the same thing. What would you trade for him?
For 1 year of
You
McDavid?
know it's only going to be 1 year. What would you be willing to give up? Would you give up Tage?
Yeah.
Would you give up Darlene?
Do I get to know in the future if these players demand trades in 2 years?
You do not get to know that. You only have the information that you have at present. But I'm letting you know, McDavid's letting you know, I am walking in a year. I'll play for you. I'll play hard for you. We'll try to win a championship, but I'm gone in a year. Darlene for McDavid.
Okay, because you're not getting it done with draft picks.
No, sure. I mean, of course you'd be willing to give up. You can be willing to give up 5 first-round picks for a year of McDavid.
I'll tell you who should do that is every good team.
Mm-hmm. Kawhi Leonard. Hey, that worked. He won.
He did.
Toronto doesn't regret that. I would not give up Darlene, by the way, for that. I think.
I just had you giving up everything from the logos to the sticks.
Yeah, but I'm getting him forever. Like I'm gonna build around him eventually, right? Aren't I? Wouldn't your question basically be, could you see them winning the Cup with McDavid this year? Isn't that your question? Because that's why the Raptors did it. The Raptors did it because they thought they could win a championship with the one star player.
All right, this has been Let's Get Stupid.
James catches, puts up a three. Won't go. Rebound Bosch. Back out to Allen. His three-pointer. Bang! Tie game with 5 seconds remaining. Spurs do not have a timeout.
It's the what anniversary of that shot?
No idea.
12-year anniversary?
11 years.
11 years.
Ray Allen against the Spurs to force overtime?
Mm-hmm. All-time moment. All-time Mike Breen call, too. I am hoping the Pacers force Game 7. I can't have sports end yet.
It's always nice to see teams win at home. And how about the Panthers winning back-to-back at home?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wonder how many teams have done that. Of the back-to-backs, would a team in the last however many years won both times at home? So Tampa, that's COVID year stuff, right? Like that's inside the bubble for one of those, probably.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to be back-to-back at home.
Nope, that's right.
Go back to Pittsburgh. They beat Nashville and they beat San Jose. Were they both or either at home? Remember that San Jose series was terrible.
Yeah. They won.
I should know the answers to these questions before I just go ahead and look them up.
I mean, they won one of their cups
in Detroit.
Who did?
Pittsburgh. When they beat Detroit. Detroit's in the West at that time.
Right.
That's in Detroit.
Yep. Anyway. Yeah, the flurry save we talked about last week where he's like rolling on the ground. Yeah.
So, anyway, T's going to the break. The top 4 teams, according to ESPN's analytics, to win the AFC. The big 3, Bills, Ravens, Chiefs, are 1, 2, 3, each with an even 18% chance to win the AFC. 18% Chiefs, 18% Bills, 18% Ravens. Who's 4th, according to ESPN Analytics? Because they put 4 teams on the screen. Who's 4?
4, if it's not the Bengals, 4 is going to be...
I told you it's not the Bengals.
4 is going to be the Texans.
It is not the Texans.
Is it our Jags?
It is not the Jaguars.
I figured that.
This team has a 9% chance to win the AFC. So half of the big three, but the first name up that they put after the big three.
What about... it's not New England, is it?
No.
Chargers?
Yes.
Chargers. Which always just feels like...
I feel like Denver's not far behind. Like Denver's in a really good spot. Denver's in a really good spot. I saw one guy that I liked a lot. One guy that I do like a lot, Brett Coleman. He does like off-season videos of every team, and he basically said the longer the video, the more the team has problems. Like if I make a 2-hour video, there's a lot going on they got to fix. And he was pointing out that Denver's video was so short. He's like, this team is buttoned up. This team is in good shape.
Yeah.
Roster, coaching, everything.
I saw their offensive line might be one of the best in football this year for what they've done to that. Second year of Bo Nix. Yeah, they added Dre Greenlaw, I think, in the offseason, too. I kind of like Denver more than I like the Chargers this year. The only thing holding me back a little bit about both of those teams is, are they going to have enough around their quarterbacks? The lines are good, which you look at the Bills a little bit. If your lines are great and your quarterback is really good, then you should be fine. But Denver is going to be what in the skill positions this year? They still have Sutton, and he's pretty good, but he's getting older. And then they're at a rookie running back, R.J. Harvey, who they drafted in the second round. Maybe he's good. The Chargers are also going with a rookie running back, Hampton. And then receiver for them is McConkey. He's the one of the two teams I would like the most. But when you gotta make a big throw, do those two teams have guys for it? They each have one. But I'm not like super impressed with their overall skill position groups. But I think that's fine. Their defenses should be good, their lines should be good, and their quarterbacks are good. So I think they'll be good enough to have that not be a problem.
Did you say receivers are good? Because the receivers are good.
For which? Both?
Chargers.
I like McConkey.
McConkey's like true number one.
McConkey's awesome.
McConkey is...
Is there anyone else I should like other than that? That could be enough, right? Like, they're not going to also throw the ball all over the place. Harbaugh is going to, and Greg Roman, of course, is going to want to run the ball a lot. That should be fine. Just having the one stud in McConkey, I think, is probably a stud.
Yeah. The rest of it is, you're right, Mike Williams, Quentin Johnston. They did draft.
Those are the two. They got to stop at those
They
two.
did draft Trey Harris. Back-to-back seasons, drafting a receiver relatively high.
What round was he? Second round?
I think so.
They had Najee Harris also. You'd pick the Chargers to be better than the Broncos?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I think I'd pick Denver.
I think I'd pick Denver also.
Yeah.
Yeah, Denver, we'll see. How about Justin Herbert plays chess?
Okay, I saw this.
Yesterday was my gateway into learning that a lot of NFL players are in a competitive chess league.
Uh-huh.
Justin Jefferson, Kyler Murray, Justin Herbert. You did know this?
No, I did not know this. Battle NFL Stars, it was a charity chess tournament that they were in. But they're big chess players.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Herbert and it's Mac Hollins going at it. This is one area where, like, I don't know how to play chess, and I'd like to learn how to play chess, because when I saw people's reaction to what Herbert did, like, he basically, what did he do? The equivalent of, like, a Hail Mary in chess?
I don't know. I do know how to play chess. I don't know how to play chess where you're looking at the board like people were doing this and, like, yeah. So I guess that's not knowing how. I functionally know how to play chess.
Looking at the board like in the Queen's Gambit where she's, like, visualizing it on the ceiling.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Because it sounded like Herbert did something that people thought was, he sacrificed his king or whatever.
You can't do that.
Or he sacrificed a bishop, maybe.
Yep.
And everyone thought, you just gave the game away. But it was a trap. He was setting Mac Hollins up for a trap, I think was what it was. And then he threw like a Hail Mary pass, the equivalent of. But I cannot talk about it any more intelligently than that. Mac Hollins, Justin Herbert. Harrison Phillips was also in this tournament.
Okay.
Justin Reed, Rashawn Slater, A.J. Dillon, Richard Sherman. And that's your list. Kyler Murray, also.
Yeah.
It was the championship was Justin Reed against Kyler Murray.
Justin Reed from the Chiefs?
Is he on the Chiefs?
He used to be, at least, right?
I don't know if he's still on the Chiefs. He's on the Saints.
Okay. I think of him as a Chief.
He's on the Saints now. Yeah.
803-0550. Sorry, 1-888-550-2550. June 18th. My birthday's in a week.
1 week, you turn almost 50. Let's go.
46.
Big birthday.
Turning 46.
46. Does it feel like 46?
Let's not forget, was it earlier this week when I was asked to guess an athlete that's the same age as me, and I got it by 2 days? LaDainian Tomlinson.
Yep. That was pretty good.
Is there I'm going to look up for
it's one of the most incredible things I've ever seen accomplished on the show.
Thank you. So who's 46? This is a fun game for me. I just turned who's 46?
Right now?
Yep. Usher.
That makes sense.
Usher's 46.
That checks out.
Rachel McAdams is 46. Adam Levine.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Andy Samberg, James Corden. CM Punk is 46. You know what? It's a good year here.
Yeah.
Now I'm taking credit for the whole year. John Legend, Zoe Saldana.
You and CM Punk have the same colored beard going, so that makes sense to me.
Fair. I guess. Kate Hudson's 46. Manny Pacquiao.
Who is fighting again this year, I saw.
Oscar Isaac, Katherine Heigl.
Okay.
These are all my people. Tyrese Gibson, Josh Hartnett.
Is this list making you feel better or worse?
You know what? Yeah, I feel great. Claire Danes.
You feel better?
Yeah, Katie Holmes. Yeah, these people aren't old.
Can we find a 46-year-old that's going to make him feel terrible?
I'm looking at this list. These people aren't old at all.
Yeah. What would be the best way to do this? Because I tried it with the running back thing for you, and it didn't work. Because it worked for me, 29-year-old running backs, but it didn't work for you. What about hockey players that are 46 years old? Maybe that could be
okay. Let's play
a window here.
Let's play the game with hockey players.
Well, how long were you 18?
They would have been drafted in 1997 because that's when I'm 18. So 97, 98 draft.
Okay. Is Joe Thornton going to be 46?
46? It's going to be close.
Right? But see, what you really like here are guys that have been gone for a while. Because that's going to make them feel older. So, Olli Jokinen? No.
That's a name.
How about Sergei Samsonov? How about Marian Hossa? He's been gone a while, right?
Yeah.
You're as old as Mika Nornen.
Mika Nornen.
Just got down to the Sabres first-round pick.
There's a name for you.
What about Patrick Marleau? No. Oh, here you go. You're the same age as Max Afinogenov.
There you go.
My guy.
Good old
I don't
Mad
think
Max.
this is working.
No, it's not. I don't feel old.
He doesn't feel old.
I feel like $1 million. Don't feel old. 46.
You can still hit the ball in golf as far as you ever could, right? Is that the test?
I want to say
Are you truly old when you can no longer hit the ball as far as you ever could?
Right, when you have accepted that
I've hit my furthest drive
the
of my life.
days of hitting it long are gone.
Right.
Because
you wouldn't say right now, you would not definitively say, I've hit the furthest drive of my life at 46?
Probably, it's very possible I would say that, but that comes down to technique rather than just flat
ability.
Out the ability
Power.
of the body to do things.
Sure.
I will say you have hope because I played yesterday at Delaware with a guy who's 84 years old.
Wow.
Pushed his cart. He was unbelievable. He walked up, he played the last two with us. He hit his drive on 17, 245 yards. Just down
at
the
84.
fairway.
At 84.
84
At
years
84.
old. I am not exaggerating not a bit.
His name was Gary Player.
But he used to probably hit it 310.
It was unbelievable.
Was this person 6'5"?
This person is in their era of deciding, listen, I can't hit it like I used to. 245 is still good. But there's no way he was hitting 245 in his prime.
I don't know what, this guy was unbelievable. 84, his name was Cleo. Super, very, you wouldn't think this guy's a bomber. Skinny, sort of 5'10", dude, just hammered the ball. He was 84 years old, pushed his cart, and on the 18th tee, he lifted his shirt up and showed. He was like, I got a chemo bag on right now.
Oh my God.
Wow. I'm not even kidding.
What an adventure this was.
This guy was incredible. I told him he's got to come find me every time he plays because I want to play with him all the time. He was an unbelievable dude. He parred 18.
Nice. 18's a good par there.
How long until you're allowed to play the senior tees?
60.
Usually got to be 60?
Depends. So we've been at golf tournaments where my father-in-law's 60, and they're like, if you're 60, you can play the golds. And he doesn't need to. So we had
Does he anyway?
An internal discussion like, well, they're going to let me.
Right.
And
it doesn't change anything with was this like a handicap
because here's
situation?
The thing. If you're 60 and you feel like I don't need the senior tees, but the other seniors are playing the senior tees that also don't need them, and they're going up, well, I got to do it.
Right.
Now it's an arms race. I got to go to the senior tees.
Right.
Scramble season.
So you're not close to the senior tees then?
No. I am close to 100 holes. 100 holes of golf is a week from tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yep.
Did you start looking at the weather yet?
No, not yet. I got Owen to caddy 18, though. He's Owen is joining the brotherhood of people that have caddied the 18 of the 100 for me.
Well, Owen, I hope for your sake that it's not as hot as it was last year when I only walked 18 and didn't golf with him, and I was dripping.
Yeah. I'm ready. I'm prepared for whatever needs to be done.
All right, the 10-day. Okay. All right. The 10-day forecast right now, high of 86.
86. Yikes.
We do it at Wanaka. It's right there on the lake. Whatever the temperature is, it's going to be a little cooler because of the lake.
Yep.
But we are 9 days out.
And then that night will be Team WGR's 11-day power play game. So you can come watch us at 6 o'clock at Harbor Center if you want to watch some bad hockey. And you could donate, 11daypowerplay.com. Hit the donate button, and then you can just search WGR. It's the easiest way to get there. Opening ceremonies are today at 6. So
when you're caddying and then playing in the 11-day?
I am.
He's caddying 18 holes.
Yeah,
well, still, but okay. That's
just walk.
No,
it's
not
holes.
that bad.
It's a good warm-up. Be fine.
Yeah, it's not bad. And if you want to, you can use a cart. You can. I can't.
When's the last time you skated?
A couple weeks ago with Josh's.
Okay.
I got in on one of Josh's.
I've not skated in months.
I
don't know if I will before this game, but it's not like the most high energy game in the world anyway. So that
was the first time I'd put it on since my last practice where I got hurt though. That was
wow.
That was 3.5 years of not touching it. So
all right, well that'd be fun.
Come watch a real show.
So you can go hang out outside when it's 86 during the day, and then come. Harbor Center's nice and cool at night. So
how'd the pads smell?
Oh, gotta be horrible.
Fine.
3.5 year.
Yeah, just sort of
whatever organisms were in there died off.
Yeah,
you think?
No way.
There's
no way.
The gloves were still bad.
In thousands of years, future archaeologists are gonna unbury hockey equipment, and it's still gonna reek.
Yeah. I left it out in the sun for a while to kind of bake it out when I got home.
Yeah.
3.5 years ago, and was like, I got to get this stuff to not stink because I don't know when the next time I'm touching it is. So
I'm going to look up if unbury is a word. It is.
Unbury?
Unbury. Yeah, unbury. They're going to unbury this equipment. Unbury.
Yeah, what else would you call it?
Dig up.
Excavate.
Yeah. Excavate. Yeah, dig. I've never heard unbury.
Unbury.
Yeah, it's a win for you.
Right.
It is a word.
I didn't even think twice about it. I just guess I used that word.
It was instinct. You just
unbury.
knew it. You just knew it. Extendo Sports coming up, and then the Northtown Automotive Extra Point Show. You can give us a ring if you want to, or the Extra Point Show, all that good stuff. Jeremy and Joe on WGR.
I have a different let's get stupid involving McDavid. So he's 1 year left on his contract.
Mm-hmm.
Kawhi Leonard it. What if you knew he's leaving in a year, no matter what? Edmonton knows the same thing. What would you trade for him?
For 1 year of
You
McDavid?
know it's only going to be 1 year. What would you be willing to give up? Would you give up Tage?
Yeah.
Would you give up Darlene?
Do I get to know in the future if these players demand trades in 2 years?
You do not get to know that. You only have the information that you have at present. But I'm letting you know, McDavid's letting you know, I am walking in a year. I'll play for you. I'll play hard for you. We'll try to win a championship, but I'm gone in a year. Darlene for McDavid.
Okay, because you're not getting it done with draft picks.
No, sure. I mean, of course you'd be willing to give up. You can be willing to give up 5 first-round picks for a year of McDavid.
I'll tell you who should do that is every good team.
Mm-hmm. Kawhi Leonard. Hey, that worked. He won.
He did.
Toronto doesn't regret that. I would not give up Darlene, by the way, for that. I think.
I just had you giving up everything from the logos to the sticks.
Yeah, but I'm getting him forever. Like I'm gonna build around him eventually, right? Aren't I? Wouldn't your question basically be, could you see them winning the Cup with McDavid this year? Isn't that your question? Because that's why the Raptors did it. The Raptors did it because they thought they could win a championship with the one star player.
All right, this has been Let's Get Stupid. I mentioned roster build. I want to get to. I've got 2 stats of the day. We'll double up. Why not? One is that Florida led in this series for more than any other team had led in the series. The numbers on that. Florida, by the way, and it all happened in first periods. The goal differential in the first period. You want to say what they've got here on the screen on Get Up on ESPN?
Sure. Greeny, Mike Greenberg. Top players who have not won a title. McDavid, number 1. Josh Allen, number 2. Lamar Jackson, 3. Aaron Judge, 4. Luka Doncic, 5.
Pretty big gap between 3 and 4 there. You'll probably never get me to think Aaron Judge doesn't have a title. You're a baseball player.
Right.
It's not odd for the all-time great baseball players to not have a World Series to me.
It's going to be more of a Yankee thing than it is a baseball thing, right? It'll be, he's the greatest Yankee ever to not win a title.
Okay.
But I don't care about that.
Right.
And Luka...
In terms of impact on a game, like Allen and Jackson, yeah, for sure. And McDavid, all right. The greats in hockey usually get one.
Should Burrow be 4?
No.
How different is he from those two? He's not as great, but he's great.
Who should be 4? Who would I put 4? How about...
Luka's probably the best NBA answer, but for some reason I'm not. I don't know all about that yet. Draisaitl should be 4.
Yeah, maybe. Really?
Honestly.
Draisaitl should be 4.
Draisaitl should be 4.
That's probably right.
The first look at Stanley Cup odds on FanDuel are in for next season.
Okay. I did,
2 questions for you.
I did have a peek for this. The Sabres are 100-1.
Okay, so you already looked?
And the 4 teams behind them?
I have 5 teams behind them, so maybe you're looking at a different place?
Well, one of them was tied, I think, if you look.
Okay. No, the place I'm looking...
Okay. Was it Seattle, Utah?
Seattle, Pittsburgh,
Anaheim,
Chicago, and San Jose. are the teams that are worse than the Sabres. Who's the Stanley Cup favorite at FanDuel?
Edmonton.
Nope.
Oh, okay. They were in the email I saw. Florida.
Maybe it's adjusted? Nope.
Toronto.
Nope. Toronto is way down.
Vegas.
Nope.
Dallas.
Nope.
Carolina.
Yep.
I'm going to get out of here. Just get out. Probably because the
it is really a joke.
It's because of the playoff format, is it not?
That's why
they're going to get out, and these teams are going to,
see. That was the trap. I bet the Hurricanes to win the Cup this playoffs because of that point. It was they're playing a bad Devils team in the first round. They're playing an overrated Washington team in the second round. I'm like, free pass to the conference finals. They got a free pass to the conference finals. I need them to win the Cup to win that bet, though. And they just get rocked every time they get to the conference finals. So, yeah, I think that's kind of a joke that they're the favorite.
Speaking of that biopic, Deliver Me From Nowhere, the Bruce Springsteen biopic, stars Jeremy Allen White and Jeremy Strong, both in it. Jeremy Strong is from Succession.
Yep.
As a Jeremy, do I have to see it just based on, this is good for our brand?
I think you do.
This is good for us.
It's good for Jeremy's everywhere.
We're doing great. Look at us.
Yep.
All right.
Who's the all-time Jeremy?
Irons. I mean, Jeremy Allen White might be it. No, he's pretty hot.
Irons?
It's a Jeremy Irons.
I don't know who that is.
He played Scar. You know Jeremy Irons.
Okay. Are you sure?
He played Scar. He played the guy in Die Hard 3.
It is just funny, though, that who's...
you're going to know who this is.
The most famous Jeremy, you gave me someone I've never heard of that was in Die Hard 3?
Yeah. He was the bad guy, whatever the guy's name is.
This is not. That's not good for Jeremy's.
Well, you asked me who the most famous one was.
What about Jeremy Renner?
Okay, Hawkeye. Jeremy Roenick.
Yeah.
Jeremy Swayman.
Nah.
Jeremy spoke in class today.
Okay, ranker.com. Oh, I guess you were pretty good because Jeremy Irons is the number 2 most famous Jeremy on this list.
You know who he is.
Behind Jeremy Renner. The number 3, Jeremy Clarkson.
Don't know who he is.
That's the guy from Top Gear. Jeremy Menez, who's a Mexican soccer player, but there's a what do you call it over both of the E's in his name?
Okay.
So I don't know if it's pronounced Jeremy.
I always wanted to claim Jaromir Jagr.
No,
it's got to be Jeremy in Czech. Is it not Jaromir?
Yeah, you can't do that.
I'm claiming it. He's one of us. Anyway, all right, that's it.
So that's a weak list of Jeremys. I'm at number 6 is an English philosopher from the 1600s.
Sorry for not being named Joe.
Joe's a good one.
Yeah.
A lot of famous Joes.
That's right. There's a bunch. All right, we're back tomorrow. And by the way, I'm Jerry and you're Bruno. Didn't we already?
That's right. Never mind.
Right.
Sorry. All this was pointless anyway.
That's from all the one that. Yeah, I'm Jerry. It's Jerry and Joe. Why do we call you Bruno again?
Because my dad wanted to name me Bruno.
That's right.
Yeah.
My mom wanted to name me Jeremiah. All right, Jeremiah and Bruno. Man, we should be calling you Bruno. We got to do it.
No, we shouldn't. We should not be doing.
We got to do it. Yeah. All right. I'll commit to it. I'll really try.
Wait. No, I got it. What it is he needs to start his own podcast. That needs to have the title of Bruno in it.
Bruno?
Joe Bruno? Is there a guy named Joe Bruno?
Don't talk.
There is a guy named Joe Bruno.
Talk about Bruno?
Former Senator Joe Bruno. All right. Enough. Sal's coming up.